All right, New Mexico, welcome to Unfiltered with Elias. We are doing live political analysis tonight. I'm here with Abe Maldonado from the Chili Wire. How you doing, Abe?
Doing good, Elias. Good to be in here with you tonight. We're going to have a fun night in store for our audience and our viewers who are excited and interested to learn who are going to be our governor candidates, and also some contested House races down the ballot as well.
Yeah, this primary season has just started heating up.
Absolutely.
We've seen a lot of crazy stuff go on in the last 24 hours. So I'm excited to see who's leading in these races.
Absolutely. I agree. And honestly, elections have consequences. So the future of New Mexico is on the line, I believe, this election cycle. So
Yeah.
2026 is going to determine where New Mexico goes over the next few years and what that leadership looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's important for New Mexicans to get out and vote, participate. I mean, participation is key. Um, I know we're going to go through some clips for everyone. We got some clips coming up, but it's very important. If you guys haven't gone out and voted yet, you still have time. The polls don't close till 7. Get down there, cast your vote, make your voice heard. I mean, this is one of the most consequential things that we have, right? The right to vote.
Yeah. And it's a privilege, so utilize your privilege. I'm a former social studies teacher, and so spent my time in the classroom and being a political science guy. Hey, this is you as an American have this right and this privilege. Go utilize it, because, I think a lot of times we get frustrated with the way the direction is going, but oftentimes people feel like my vote doesn't matter. It does, because
Yeah.
when you start feeling empowered that, hey, my vote does matter, I'm actually going to go and show my voice on that ballot. And you know what? Maybe the candidate that you picked doesn't win, but the fact that you went out there was every effort, because you gave that candidate that you believed in a chance.
Yeah, the people that say, "Oh, it's corrupt, my vote doesn't count." You can't really play that, because you can outvote any kind of corruption in this country, right? I mean, we just need people to show up, you know, and masses.
Yeah,
The masses need to show up.
and it's accountability, right? Like, we have to remember that these folks that we are electing, they work for us. We don't work for them. They don't work for themselves. They work for you. New Mexicans, they work for you. And you have the ability to hire them or fire them. And so you have to go take advantage of that this election cycle.
And you can't complain, right?
And you can't complain.
Yeah.
You can't complain if you don't go out there and vote.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, if you're going to just sit at home saying, you know what, I don't like the way the direction is going, but I'm not going to do anything about it. Well, then you're enabling the problem. Clearly,
Yep.
we have problems. So, hey, get out there.
Yeah, that's why I tell everyone when I'm making my videos for my reels, I can complain because I vote.
Yeah. I'm talking about it because I'm
participate. Yeah.
participating.
Yep, I participate. So you guys want to get into our first clip?
Yeah, we should. And this is a great clip, because I think this really sets the tone of why elections matter, and the comments that are being made by our outgoing governor most recently. And we're going to share this with you all, so you all can take a look, and we'll debrief it before we bring in our next guest.
Yeah, let's show it real quick, guys.
If women, Democratic women, just show up and vote, we're good. We don't need any of the men.
Wow.
Oh, that is so frustrating. That is so frustrating. I made a video about this, and I told New Mexican men, grow a backbone. She doesn't want you to show up to the polls. For this reason, she doesn't want men to show up to the polls because they feel like they have it in the bag, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is so frustrating to watch that.
And typically, coming from this governor, I mean, ultimately what she's saying is that men usually don't tend to lean into the progressive movement. So she's saying, progressive women, we're going to run the show, and we're going to enact a lot of these policy changes, emerge America and emerge New Mexico. They're trying to shift New Mexico into that direction. And what we've seen, it doesn't work.
Yeah. And that progressive movement doesn't want men in the household either.
Yeah, they want to strip away the family unit, right?
They-
And there is something, having been an educator, and I've taught various students who came from severe economic disadvantages, some from broken homes, some without fathers, and you start noticing like certain trends. When these kids lack a father, there are key personality traits and disciplines that are missing, and it's vital for a mother and a father because they balance each other out with the child.
Mm-hmm.
And it is unfortunate. It is a problem in America where, yes, we don't have family units, and it is sad because uh, I realized how privileged I was growing up, and being a teacher taught me that. It really grew me because I never felt like, oh, we're way well off, we're wealthy. My parents struggled, they supported me, but I had both my mom and dad in my life. And unfortunately, the reality is a lot of children out there don't have that.
A lot of New Mexicans don't have it. And
Yeah.
it is a sad reality. But you know what? We see with a mother and father, we see kids, their outcomes are they're just so much better off.
Yeah,
And
there's a support that each one of those roles plays, a mother and a father, and I think we can all speak to that of what we learned from our mom, what we learned from our dad, and how it shaped us.
yeah, and progressives they want to take that family structure away, and basically they want you to lose your independence, right? Because once you're on Medicaid and food stamps and you're so dependent on the governor or on the government, well then you become a Democrat voter for life.
Yeah,
And that's what we're seeing here in New Mexico. So
and
it is so important for men, New Mexicans, to go out and vote.
yeah, go vote. Pay attention to what these elected officials are saying, because when they say it out loud that like that, they're letting you know we got this
Hmm.
in the bag, and there's
Yep.
nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, that's basically what she said. A lot of, some progressives told me, "Oh, she was just kidding." I'm like, "No, she was not kidding.
Yeah,
She
anyone
was
who knows this governor,
100% serious." Yeah,
absolutely.
she was not kidding. So it
Well,
really
hey,
grinds my
that's why
gears.
we're here, right? We're
Yep.
here. Everyone who's watching, this is why we teamed up, because it's important. It's important for younger generations to get involved and to hear all sides. I think one thing that has been missing in New Mexico is only one message has really been heard and controlled. And now there's folks like me and you who are sitting here saying, "Hey, you know what? We're tired of this.
Yep.
We're gonna take back our state, and we're gonna tell you what is actually happening. We're going to call out, the videos you've done, fact checking, because a lot of these
Hmm.
folks have gone away with it for so long that they haven't been fact
Yep.
checked and held accountable for their actions and for their decisions on policy."
And it's crazy because like Michelle Lujan Grisham, Melanie Stonsbury, Teresa Ledger Fernandez, I mean, all of these Democrats, they lie a lot.
Yeah.
Nobody fact checks them.
No.
They spit out whatever they want because they've gotten so comfortable here that they just feel like they're just no one's going to check them. I mean, legacy media doesn't check them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. They just take their word for it that they're right. And it's like, hey, these folks have an agenda. At the end of the day, they
absolutely
have
they
an
have an
agenda.
agenda.
And Stansberry, MLG, Teresa Ledger Fernandez, Deb Holland
Yep.
emerge candidates, man. And the
Hmm.
idea is that they will ruin you to lift themselves up and to lift up the greater movement of the progressive movement.
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to have a fun night, man. And
Yeah.
I think we're about ready.
Yeah, you got another clip? Do we got another clip, or are we?
Well, let's double check. How are we looking with going down to the campaign parties?
Okay.
Doug's all
So,
right.
all right, New Mexico, we're gonna bring in gubernatorial candidate Doug Turner. Doug.
How do I get the? Oh, hey guys.
Hey,
Hey, Doug,
Doug.
how's it going?
How's it going?
I can't hear anybody here.
Oh no,
Uh,
technical difficulties.
Okay, can you hear me?
yeah, we can hear you,
We
Doug.
can
Can
hear
you
you.
hear us?
Yeah, I can. Computer
Terrific.
is only as smart as the user.
We deal with the same thing over here, Doug.
How are you guys today?
Doing good. Doug, how are you feeling?
Well, I feel pretty good. It's been a long, long day, as you can probably imagine. It started for
Yeah.
me at about 4:30, in the morning, and then hitting the first polling station when it opened at 7. And then I just got home, got a shower, changed my clothes, and here I am.
Hey, Doug, I got to ask you, you were out at the polling centers. How does voter turnout look right now?
So I just got a report. I think we're in the 105,000 statewide, which is pretty good. I think the last, 2 years ago, I think it was 117. So I think the projection this year is 115. So there's still 45 minutes left. So let's see. I mean, I literally left the polling station on Tramway in Montgomery 1 hour ago,
Hmm.
and it was mobbed. So a lot of interest in this race.
Absolutely. And Doug, we were talking just before you came on about how consequential this election cycle is, and how have you seen that as you've traveled around the state? How are folks feeling about this election cycle?
I think 5 months ago, if you had asked me, there wasn't a lot of excitement. I mean, there was a lot of worry and concern over the sort of Democrats running in the race, and in particular Deb Haaland. But I got in this race in February, and more and more and more interest, and I think more and more awareness of how important it is that we get a Republican elected. I mean, just the simple fact that we need a Republican in office when we go through redistricting again will change the map in this state. I mean, that is huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So very, very consequential, and you guys are clearly aware of that.
Yeah, well, you did come into this race late, Doug. I mean, you came in, but you came in like a freight train, raising money. I mean, how long have you actually been in this race? What are we looking at? Like 18 weeks now? Maybe
I think
20?
it's week 18.
Week
18.
18. And
Yeah.
you guys are raising money. You've been all over the place. I mean, so we're really happy that you jumped in. I'm really happy to see another conservative jump into this race. So, good luck to you. I would love to hear from you later on tonight. And thanks for
We,
stopping in.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I got to compliment you guys for the work that you have done just to raise awareness about the race and the conservative issues that we all hold dear. And you guys do a fantastic job. So it's been a pleasure being on your shows.
Thanks, Doug. We've been fortunate enough to chat with you, and I know Elias has interviewed you on his podcast, and you've also come on the Chili Wire. So it has been amazing to hear your vision for New Mexico and moving New Mexico forward, and really turning this state around, because we are certainly at a crossroads.
Yes, we
Yeah,
are.
for sure. And we need more platforms like yours. I'm not suggesting that you should have more competition because you want, to control your space. But, the more people talk about these issues, the more voters are aware and the more action that people can take. And so it starts with guys like you.
Yeah. Well, me and Abe were just talking about that. We're not enemies at all. We want more conservative voices. That's how we change this narrative in this state. And that's how we start moving forward, right? We got to start combating these progressive policies and we got to change the narrative. And we need more people speaking up. So,
Absolutely. And we need younger people. We have some young folks here in the studio that we need to also motivate and get involved, because it's their future that's at stake. I think me and Elias can probably say we're getting towards the middle of
yeah.
our
Yeah.
lives. So, but there are some younger generations that really need some guidance and some perspective that oftentimes is left out.
Well, you raise a good point. I got involved in politics in the mid 90s with Gary Johnson, and he got a lot of people excited. He was a young guy himself, I mean, in mid 40s. And, there was a farm team of young sort of conservatives out there, and many of them became state legislators and city councilors. And, I was down in Roswell, and it was the guy I met down there 15 years ago who blamed me for the fact that he's on the county commission. So, we need to make what we do more exciting and more interesting, and we need to bring young people into the party. I had so many young people out, at polling places today, showing up and supporting me, and it was exciting for them,
Yeah.
To actually be a candidate out there going door to door with people was pretty cool. And it
Yeah.
was pretty cool for me, hanging out with a bunch of younger people. So, it's something we got to work on.
Yeah, it starts in the home too. I take my 7-year-old with me every year to vote, and it's exciting for her. And I think that's how we do it. We got to involve our kids. We got to show them how important it is to cast that ballot and to be involved. And that way, when they turn 18 and they're able to vote, they're just as excited as we are. You know.
Well, my kids, I have a 19-year-old and I have a 16-year-old who has a lot of, friends in school who are 18. And so they're on their Snapchats and they're on their Instagrams and, talking about who voted and sending pictures of them with their voting sticker. And, my son came out to the state convention and spoke, and, he's excited and his classmates are excited. So, one step at a time, but we got to be willing to make an opening for them, and give them something cool to do.
Absolutely. And honestly, Doug, before you jumped on, we were talking about when I was teaching, I had students who were about to go out in the world and they really felt a disadvantage to voting. They didn't feel like their vote matters coming out of high school and turning 18 and having that privilege. And I used to say, you have to vote. That's the only way you get change. It's that mindset where you feel that not getting involved and not speaking up that leads to some of the problems that we're seeing here in New Mexico, and we just start settling for the status quo.
Yeah.
Well, we get what we deserve.
Yeah.
And, if we're not willing to do the work or even show up to vote, complaining is kind of pointless, right? I mean, if you have, people can lose by one vote.
Yeah.
So it matters.
Yeah, it does. Well, we're 50th and everything. We're last in everything good and first in everything bad. And I think a lot of us are tired of it. A lot of us have kids, right? And I cannot leave the state in in this kind of peril. If I want them to stay, we got to change it. So,
Yeah. Well, I think that's why a lot of us do these things, because, we want our families to be close to us and we want our kids to find meaningful careers here instead of having to leave. And so we got to make some changes. We got to make
Absolutely.
some real big changes in this state.
Yeah, and it all starts at the top, right, Doug? It starts with leadership, and we're looking forward to later tonight to see what the results hold as well. Because right now we could be talking to our future governor of New Mexico.
yep, absolutely.
Well, I hope so, but let's see how it turns out. I mean, we feel like we've got crazy momentum over the last few weeks. Polling has been our direction. I mean, the campaign's been just electric, but you never know what goes on in the voting booth. So fingers crossed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think we can hope that people are out there exercising their right to vote and taking full advantage of it today. And that's one thing I think we're going to be looking at tonight, seeing what the voter turnout looks like.
Yeah, well, we've been getting reports all day. About 4 or 5 hours ago, we were pretty worried. I think there was only 80,000 total votes. That included 40 some odd in early voting. But I think it's coming on strong, and I'm hopeful that we reach our target.
Yeah. Well, we all know that Republicans like to vote on the day
On
of, right?
election
They
day.
don't like to early vote. They like to go to the polls on the day of the election and vote. It's frustrating, but hey, we'll take it.
I know. Well, going door to door, over the last number of days, and we've hit 20,000 homes in Albuquerque alone, in Broward
Wow.
County. And we talked to the walkers, and they're like, "Well, everyone says they're voting, but they haven't voted yet. They said they're going to vote on election day." So, I was out there early this morning reminding them.
Yeah. 20,000 doors. So you guys have been hoofing it. I'm sure you guys are
20,000.
tired, huh?
Oh yeah, I mean the whole crew has been, you joke that everyone's wearing 2 or 3 hats, including me. So
Yep. And Doug, it sounds
yeah.
like you might need a new pair of shoes to go out walking the streets now.
Oh man, it's been really great. I mean, this is an amazing, amazing state with amazing people in it, and we need to take care of them. We need to fix some stuff, and we need to live up to our potential because our potential is huge. And I'm
Absolutely.
excited. I'm excited about getting the results tonight. I'm excited about sleeping for 2 days solid.
Well, you're gonna get if you do win, you'll get a quick 1 day, 2 day break, and then you're gonna be
Right.
out again, right?
Yeah.
I know. I know. I'm kidding about the 2 days. If I could get 6 hours, that would be good.
Well, Doug, we
Anyway,
appreciate you and the time you've taken to join us here. We know you're extremely busy. We know that you have folks around that want to chat with you and want to celebrate with you tonight as you all wait for the polls to close.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Doug. Good luck.
all right, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great evening.
You
You
as well,
too.
Doug. Thank you.
Well, that was gubernatorial candidate Doug Turner. Sounds like his campaign came in like a freight train,
Yeah,
right? I
$700,000.
mean,
I
they
mean,
came
in
in like,
3 months.
yeah. I mean, they just started steamrolling over people. They were just raising money, hitting doors. They were going crazy. So, and I like to see it, right? The competition is, I mean,
Competition's good. We need
yeah,
to
we
vet
need
out who is the
choices.
best candidate.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
we need choices, we need choices. When this primary first started and we thought it was just going to be Duke and Greg and Allison, I was like, we'll see how this plays out. But when Doug entered, man, it just seemed like a lot of things changed. And then after the pre-primary, I mean, we saw, right? We saw who was going to stay in and who wasn't.
Yeah.
Steve Lanier dropped out, Allison dropped out, and then we were left with these three guys. So
Yeah, it really starts to really get smaller in size
yeah,
as the competition heats up. But going back to what we talked about, voter engagement and folks getting motivated is that, they need some excitement. They need to not feel, and we heard this, and I'm sure you've heard it with folks that you talk to, but a lot of times people are just like, I'm not happy with either choice because I'm feeling like I have to
yeah.
pick my poison. But when you have more folks involved and more folks competing for your vote, you start realizing, hey, there is a really good option
Well,
here.
that's why it's so important for people to participate in the primary, right? Because most people don't pay attention until it's the general, and they're like, "Oh, now I got to pick between,
Yeah, these two, and I'm
these
like,
two, and I'm
neither
not
one of
happy
these
with
sound like they'll
either of
work
them."
out.
And
Yep.
I'm like, "Well, you didn't vote in the primary. You
Yeah.
didn't pick you didn't go vote for the person you wanted because you waited." And that's why it's so important for New Mexicans to get out and go cast their
Yep.
ballot,
And they
right?
have half an hour. And as long as you're in line before 7 o'clock, you can vote, even if it goes after 7.
Yep.
So go get in line. If you're watching this and you're like, I haven't voted, but hey, I'm ready to go vote right now, find your nearest voting center, get there, get in line.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know that. If you're standing in line and it's 7 o'clock, you still get to vote. But all right, guys, we got Duke Rodriguez, gubernatorial candidate Duke Rodriguez next. He's coming in, and we're going to speak with him. Duke is coming in. We got a little bit of a lag, guys, so he's coming in. But
I'm here.
look, oh,
Hey,
there he
Duke.
is. You
Can you
there,
guys
Duke?
see? I see you guys, yes.
All right.
Terrific.
So, how you feeling tonight, Duke? How's your campaign going?
I think we're like everyone else. We're just waiting for the witching hour. Well, we're 30 minutes within. We're doing some just preliminary measurements to see what the turnout looks like.
Yeah,
Pointing towards a record turnout,
yeah.
which
Did you
is
go
interesting,
cast your
which is
ballot
great.
today?
I did it during the early voting.
Oh, okay.
We were just talking about how Republicans like to wait, usually until election day, is what we've been hearing. A lot of folks were saying, as door knockers were going around, we're waiting till election day.
We actually looks like early voting for Republicans where it was record high. So it
Wow,
doesn't look like they're waiting at all.
that's
And it
exciting.
looks like, yeah, it's great news. And ideally, right now for us, if everybody reads their own tea leaves, but we
Yeah,
needed a high turnout and we needed a turnout of low propensity voters. And it looks right now as of 6:30, it looks like we've gotten both of those. So we'll see what happens.
yeah, absolutely. I think you're an exciting candidate for New Mexicans, Duke. I mean, you're a little bit different, right? You're the one of the biggest cannabis guys in the state of New Mexico, so Republicans aren't used to that, but you're a welcome change. So what have you been hearing when you talk to voters? Are you talking to independents, Democrats, Republicans? Are they telling you that they want a lot of change?
I think that we marketed ourselves. We communicated more than the traditional topics. We brought up data centers. We brought up water. We brought up the
Hmm.
homeless. And I think that's now being reflected in the turnout. I think if we would have stayed with the red meat, bread and butter topics, I don't think we would have had the turnout we wanted. The reaction we're getting right now, I don't want to be overly optimistic at this hour. Who knows what's going to happen? But right now, it does look like people kind of agreed with us and want a new direction.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned water, and that is a huge issue, right?
Hmm.
We look at the Rio Grande, and I mean, it's completely dry. We know that we've got new data centers in the state, and they're using up a lot of our fresh water. And now, I mean, we drive over the bridge here in Albuquerque, and we're looking at a dry Rio Grande. So, when you talk about water to New Mexicans, I think you really struck a chord with them.
You know what's funny about that, Elias? I'll tell you. Agree with what you just said, but it amuses me, particularly on social media, how many New Mexicans declared that that was AI, that the river is not dry, and that we have plenty of water, and that we're just trying to scare people. I was blown away with how many of our people think that we don't have water issues. I must tell you, that was shocking.
That
Yeah.
is, Duke. That is very shocking considering I drive over the Rio Bravo Bridge every day over the Rio Grande and
Yeah.
it is dry.
Yeah, that's not AI. I mean, if you live in
Hey,
Albuquerque and you drive over any one of our bridges, it's completely dry. And we definitely have water issues.
guys, Abe, I'll tell you both. I agree. And they said, "Oh no, no, Duke, you don't understand because you're not from here. All we do is open the dam and the river's full again." These guys have lost their minds.
No.
There's this contingency of New Mexicans who think that we have dammed the river up upstream and we're just waiting to release it. Elephant Butte's at 9%, Caballo's at 7%. I don't know
Yeah.
where they're getting this idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you've gone to Elephant Butte in the last 5 years, I mean, that lake is, I mean, it's dropping every single year. It's just getting lower and lower. We've got major water issues in this state. And I've heard you talk about desalination plants, and I
Hmm.
think that's a great idea. Using the brackish water, especially
Data centers.
for these
Yeah.
data centers. I mean, why are we giving them our fresh water when they could be? We have an ocean of brackish water
Well,
underneath us.
and I don't think we're intending to give fresh water. We're seeing environmentalists have a lot of pushback against utilizing brackish water and creating produced water and
Yeah.
recycling it and making it safe for use. And a lot of these folks are pushing back against this when New Mexico can lead on the produced water front.
Hmm.
And we're talking about jobs, we're talking about advanced innovation in water in water recycling. So, I mean, there is opportunities where New Mexico can lead. And I will tell you, and Duke, I'm sure you know this and you've heard this, but Texas is trying to take produced water away from us. They're saying, hey, you know what? New
Yeah.
Mexico, you don't want to invest in this? We will.
Yeah.
We hopefully will have a chance next week and the week after that, regardless of the election, to talk more about this water issue, because it isn't just a political issue; it's a survival issue for our people.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
actually had the recent experience of, and I'd love to share with you the videos and the images. I wanted to see firsthand how bad it is, so I went and saw three of the largest data centers in the Western US. And I would encourage you guys to take a trip. It's not that far away. You can get to each one. You can one day you could see the three largest in the Western, and it blew me away. These things are not, 100 yards long. One of them, the building itself, was probably realistically a half mile to a mile long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like no structure I've ever seen.
Yeah, and Duke, I recently toured around Los Lunas and got to see the Facebook center that they have out there. And I mean, the acreage that they own out
Hmm.
there and their growth, I mean, they're still
Yeah.
developing, like they're still moving dirt and starting to build more facilities, and it is massive.
Yeah. But desalination is the way to go. I've heard you say this too, Duke. We if these data centers want to come in, we require them to build their own desalination plants. We require them to build their own power plants, and that way they're not putting a strain on New Mexicans' infrastructure, and they're not taking our water.
Yeah, and Duke, I'd love to get your thoughts on this because I think there's some hypocrisy here because the same folks who are pushing back against desalination are the same liberal progressives that came from California, and California does a lot of
Yeah.
desalination.
I find it very offensive that people have closed their minds, and especially these new arrivals from other states saying, don't do it. They have no real experience to know how it's working. I know they hear some key buzzwords and they get frightened, like, have you heard of these small nuclear reactors?
Yeah.
I've seen these small nuclear reactors in place in what's called a kibbutz in Israel. And the fact is, a lot of these data centers, the one I saw specifically, picture this in your head: 280 megawatts. You know what 280 megawatts is comparable in a city population? It's like 280,000 residents.
Wow.
I mean, it's a city. It would be the second largest city in New Mexico by itself. And we're going to have these data centers. They're going to put a pressure on our grid. They're going to eat our waterway. We have to demand a solution that benefits our population.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But if we do it right, it could really help New Mexico too, right? It could diversify our economy here. We wouldn't have to be so dependent on oil and gas. Or right now we are heavily dependent on oil and gas for
Half
our
our state
budget.
budget, half our state
And
budget.
oil and gas is so volatile, right? That's why it's constantly going up and
Mhm.
down. We've got to figure out ways how to diversify the budget. And it looks like these data centers could be a good way to do that, but at the same time, we've got to do it the right way.
Right. And that's where good policy, I believe, comes into place, right, Duke? We need good, solid policy that takes everything into consideration. What are the consequences? What are the pros that we get from enacting this? So, I mean, we could talk about economy. We can talk about the jobs that will be created. We can talk about New Mexico leading on the AI front. There is opportunities there. New Mexico has
Mhm.
missed out on big opportunities in the tech world. I mean, Rio Rancho could essentially been the Simi Valley once upon a time,
Yeah.
but they moved to California because New Mexico's bad business policies.
But do you
Yeah.
guys consider this? We are three rational individuals having an intelligent conversation. I will predict for you the Democrats will take a hard line in this general election saying no to data centers. And unfortunately, I think the Republican candidate will almost be pushed into taking a similar line just to be competitive. And we're not going to talk about the merits of it. We're not going to talk about, you're right, data centers are a national security issue. Data
Mhm.
centers relate to more than just, oh my God, the water and the lake. There's a whole lot of issues. And I'm afraid that we're going to have to skip it because we're afraid to have that intelligent conversation.
Yeah. I mean, we see progressives consistently attacking oil and gas. We saw Clear Horizons this
Yeah,
past
the
session.
Green Amendment,
Yeah,
previous
they
session.
they want to get rid of it, but they don't want to bring other industry into the state. We've got to stop taking this hard line, and we got to start actually talking about what's going to better New Mexico.
Yeah, they hate the industry. They love the money, right, Duke? And you made this a big talking point recently, and your lawsuit against the governor's universal child care. And I think we can all agree that individuals living below the poverty line should have access to child care. But this was really essentially child care for the rich that was paid
Yeah.
for by oil and gas.
Hmm.
Well, I do worry that we are entering into a very destructive election cycle in our state, particularly. I think there is so much anger at the federal level that any kind of progress may be frowned upon so aggressively that it's going to limit the Republican Party's ability to put forth new novel ideas. And that scares me.
Yeah. Well, we've got to get the messaging right. We've got to tell New Mexicans, look, the policy that is passed in New Mexico has nothing to do with what's going on in Washington D.C. You know, Donald Trump does not run, the roundhouse. He has nothing
Yeah.
to do with it. And we've got to make that separation, and we've got to get people to see it.
Yeah, a lot of the policies that are hurting New Mexicans are happening right here at the state level and at your local level. You need to pay attention to who you're electing as low as city council and county commission and mayors. I mean,
Yeah.
they all have a big impact on the direction that these municipalities go in.
Yeah. Yeah, and this race is very important. This race that you're involved in, Duke, it's very important that we get a Republican in office.
I think we've done a great job of creating public interest. That's wonderful. We may have actually created too much Democratic interest because I've seen the numbers. This is a scary thing, Elias. And Abe, I just did a quick little math of back of the napkin. If you combined every Republican vote that's been cast in this primary, and you combined it with every single DTS vote, not those who pulled just Republican tickets, but go to the larger number, we would still lose to the Democrats by nearly 40 points. They are just piling it in. While we're having record Republican turnout, they're having near astronomical Democrat turnout.
Wow.
Duke, do you attribute that to, I think, some of the things that we're seeing at the national level, right? I think gas prices right now, the Iran situation, I believe that a lot of that, it may be motivating them, right? And I think the progressives are motivated because they lost big time in 2024.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think in a way, to be rather crude about it, I think a lot of the high Democratic turnout, it may not be as rational and it may be as crude as being a middle finger to the White House, and we have to accept that reality. There is a lot of anger. This afternoon, about noon, I saw a big protest at the corner of Juan de Beau and Montgomery, and they were on all four corners of that protesting the Iranian situation. So no, they are out there. They are using this leverage and they're getting their voices heard.
Yeah, and Duke, I think one of the biggest things, like for me, that sticks out about this situation, and we briefly touched on this earlier in our conversation, is we have to educate voters. We have to message on it because I don't think that a lot of voters, especially younger voters, understand the Iran conflict. For ages, over 50 years, we've been battling this with Iran. Iran once upon a time was a country that was seeing prosperity, and then the Islamist State took over and it completely changed the game. And this
Yeah.
is a country and a leadership that has never liked America. They've always chanted death to America. And finally we had a president and said, you know what? I'm not going to take this anymore. We're not going to play this game of them threatening nuclear weapons. And they were already threatening about shutting down the Strait of Hormuz
Well,
before we
yeah.
got into this conflict.
We have to educate these voters because we've had a carrier group basically sitting in that ocean for the last 40 years, right? I mean, we go through this with Iran every few months. We're escorting tankers through there. I mean, so much so that it's built into our national defense budget. So this isn't new, right? This conflict isn't new. We've been doing this for 50 years. So, but a lot of Democrats don't understand that, right? They don't know that we've had a carrier group basically sitting out there for the last 45 years escorting tankers, right? And we're putting all this money into our defense spending because of it. And they just think that we just went over there and started bombing them.
Yeah, and also the larger impact on the U.S. dollar and the global economic
Yeah.
issues. I always I've heard from folks recently saying, why is gas going up for oil that is foreign, but we rely on domestic energy? I said, good point, but oil is only ranked on the U.S. oil in the stock market. And unfortunately, that is a global price. So
Yeah.
even though we have our own domestic production here and we have a very great basin in our Permian Basin and also our San Juan Basin, the reality is, yeah, it's unfortunate. And I think that's why this conflict is in the long run going to be looked at. That was worth it for American interest, but also global interest, to make sure that one country does not hijack the top, percent of the world's oil.
Yeah. And New Mexico is making hundreds of millions of dollars right now because of this. We're doing really well.
Hey guys, I'm going to have to bail on you. I got 2 TV stations waiting in the lobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Duke, well, we appreciate your time. We wish you best of luck. And we look forward to speaking with you later on this evening if you're available.
Thank you, Duke.
You got it. We'll
Appreciate
try to
it.
talk
Good
later,
luck.
guys. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you, Duke.
Good luck, sir.
All right. Well, man, I'll tell you, looks like some of our folks let us know as we're talking about the candidates, looks like we're seeing the Democrats play their card that every candidate that's a Republican is striking similarities to Trump. So that is their strategy, is that if you are Republican and
Yeah.
you are running, you're MAGA.
Yeah, and we kind of I kind of already knew that this was going to happen, right? And we're going to see a lot of this in the general. They're going to keep throwing that comparison out there because that's all they have. Because when we look at Democrats in New Mexico, they cannot run on their record.
Yeah.
They just can't, right? So what do they have to do? They have to distract voters and they have to put all the attention on Trump, right? They got to link Republicans, even though Republicans in the state of New Mexico, the policy here has nothing to do with Washington, D.C. That's the only thing they can do, because when we look at the Democrats' record in New Mexico, it is terrible.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to look at the rankings.
Yep.
As we said earlier, dead last in everything good and first in everything bad. I mean,
Yep.
those are your rankings. Like, that is what Democratic policies have gotten us since statehood in 1912.
Yeah. I was scrolling on Instagram or Facebook or something earlier, and I was looking at one of my buddy's posts, Johnny America, and he was talking about all these restaurants that are shutting down in Albuquerque. Wendy's just closed half of their restaurants in the city of Albuquerque, and I'm like, what do you guys think that is from? You've got to these things directly correlate, right? Bad policy shuts down
Crime,
small business.
loitering,
Yes.
homelessness. I mean, being homeless isn't a crime, but it plays an impact on businesses trying to thrive when they have to fix windows or repair their facilities
Yeah.
because they've been damaged. I mean, eventually you say, you know what, this isn't worth it. We're going to cut our losses and just shut down.
And now we have Tim Keller raising minimum wage. So it's like, we saw what happened in California when they raised the minimum wage to $20 an hour, right? We saw thousands of small businesses shut their doors. We saw them close their stores, cut hours. We saw them cut benefits.
Well, and the greater impact is that it actually lifts cost of living.
Yep.
Because now, okay, minimum wage is going up. I got to pay you more, but now my prices go up on goods and services.
Yep.
The Democrats are going to get their money from somewhere. So yeah, you know what? We're going to give you a higher wage, but guess what? We're going to tax you somewhere else. And guess what? Now you're just paying that money back. And so it's essentially like you didn't get a raise.
Yeah. And McDonald's may be able to handle that, right? They may be able to handle the minimum wage hike, but a mom and pop, a father-son duo restaurant, a taco truck, something like that, they may not be able to handle it.
Yeah.
So, all of these policies that are being pushed in New Mexico are directly responsible for the things that we are seeing in this state right now.
And they don't work, because what we're seeing in New Mexico right now with a lot of these progressive policies that are being passed, they were done in California. What happened in California? People are fleeing California because they realize that. And Spencer Pratt is addressing it now, right, in the city of LA. And he's saying, hey, we're losing Hollywood. Hollywood has even left California. They're saying, we're going to take our setup somewhere else, whether it's New Mexico or somewhere else. But then they come here and then they vote the same thing that they did in California that they're running away from. And it just does not make sense.
And we're seeing a population decline in the state of New Mexico now.
Yeah, we're the greatest exporter of our people.
Yep. And look, I mean, our population is declining. Look, the city of Albuquerque is broke. It's dead broke. Tim Keller just passed a $1.5 billion budget. right? So the city of Albuquerque is broke. We have people leaving. We have small businesses shutting down, leaving. And I was just telling a buddy this earlier. We're going to see a tax increase in some sort. It's going to be property taxes, GRT, something is coming, you know? And all of that is, all of these policies are directly responsible for these things. So I don't know what else. I mean, we just have to get our messaging right. We
Yeah.
really, really do. And not just conservatives, but declined estates, independents. These people got to get out. They got to understand how important this is. So
Absolutely. Well, everyone watching, it is up to you and it's up to us to decide how we change this and who we vote for.
yeah,
And it looks like right at this time, we're going to take about a 1 minute break as we get ready to bring in our next guest.
yeah. All right, New Mexico, welcome back to Unfiltered with Elias. I'm sitting here with Greg Cunningham, candidate for Congress,
That's right.
CD2.
Congressional District 2. You're right.
So you're finally turning the chapter today.
Yes, we were just talking about that.
Yeah.
It's a milestone. It is a stepping stone towards the goal that, we're all shooting for here, and that's victory in November. I mean, but it is sort of that moment of like, okay, it's real now. Here we go.
Well, your race is probably one of the most I'm most excited about your race, right? Because I know we can do it.
Mhm.
I know we can flip this seat. I know we can get you in Congress, and we can bring good conservative values, and we can bring representation back to the Republican representation back to the state of New Mexico. And that is exciting.
You're going to have to say those words together a few times in a row to start having people have
Yeah.
that sink in a little bit. Republican representation. We don't know what that looks like anymore.
No, no, we don't. And it's sad. It's sad that half of this state is Republican, but we don't have any representation.
Well, our intention is to change that. And I'm glad you brought up CD2 because really, I want to emphasize how important CD2 is. And so, for the people that don't know this, President Trump won CD2 in 2024. Of the 435 congressional districts in America, it's one of 13 that the president won, but the Democrat won the seat. I ran for a state house seat here on Albuquerque's west side, and I outperformed the president by 4 points here in Albuquerque. So, as we look at congressional districts and races, this is the one in New Mexico, and actually nationally, and I'll expand on that in a minute. But in New Mexico right now, this is the race that we have a mathematical and statistical zero starting point. This is a toss up. And
Yeah.
so that's important and that's a big deal. And so I need New Mexicans to understand what this means. You said it, just under 45% or 43.
Mhm.
I have to, careful with numbers. People voted in a conservative manner. And we do not have a seat at the table right now. We do not have a voice. We do not have an advocate. And we need that. I
Yeah.
mean, we have seen what a one party system has done to New Mexico
Yeah.
and other states around the country as you look. But again, this is our state. This is where we live, where we love, where we're raising our children and our grandchildren. So we're going to talk about New Mexico. We know something's wrong.
Yeah. And look, CD2 is a very big district. I mean,
Hmm.
it goes all the way to the border, all the way to the South Valley of New Mexico, all the way to the eastern side of New Mexico. I mean,
Yes,
it is a vast, big district, and it is very important. And that part of the state is really conservative.
it is.
And it has been gerrymandered. And the fact that you are able to have the kind of numbers that you have is very promising, I think.
It is. And so to put the scope of CD2 in working man's terms, I'm 3 windshields and 3 oil changes into this. That's how we're measuring this.
Well, I mean, Democrats they gerrymandered CD2, right?
They did, and the intention was to get Congresswoman at the time Harrell out.
Mm-hmm.
They accomplished that, and the way they accomplished that was by bringing in Albuquerque's west side and Albuquerque's South Valley, which is traditionally Democrat
Mm-hmm.
or blue, and taking out Roswell, cutting almost all of Artesia out of it, and most of Hobbs. And those are traditionally conservative or red cities. And so they skewed the numbers. It worked for a period of time.
Yeah.
But the fact that I outperformed the president here in 2024, Albuquerque is my home. It's
Mm-hmm.
my backyard. It's where I was a police officer for 22 years. We're going to make them regret doing that. They brought us into this race and we're going to make them regret that.
Yeah. Well, it's insane to me that they just cut Roswell, right? You look at the map and they shaved right into Roswell, and then they cut Hobbs, and I mean, and the Supreme Court said it wasn't egregious enough,
Enough.
which is another thing that kind of it's just insane that they were able to do it, and it just wasn't egregious enough, but it was egregious.
Just not egregious enough to overturn it.
Well, we're all very excited about your race, and I want to do whatever I can to help you win this race, because I would love to have a good, godly Christian man that believes in law enforcement, believes in border enforcement, someone that supports the president, someone that we can depend on in Congress, because we just don't have that right now.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. And that really is sort of the cornerstone of who we are. Is that's my expertise as law enforcement, safety, border security.
Yeah.
The representation part you brought up already. It's important that we have a voice that speaks for people that, are of like mind. And, the other issue that I'm sure you guys have been talking about tonight is kitchen table stuff. How
Yeah.
much things cost, what matters, how do we feed our families, how do we pay our bills, what does that look like, and what does that mean for us going forward?
Yeah. And if we can convey that message to New Mexicans, I think we win every time.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you, going back to what we were talking about earlier, Washington is all in. We have the President Trump's endorsement, we have congressional leadership's endorsement. I was in Washington last week. I met with the speaker. Washington understands how important CD2 is. We just need CD2 to understand how important CD2 is.
Yeah. Well, Let's convey the message and let's get people out to vote.
That's my job, and that's what we're going to do.
Thank you for coming in, Greg. I
Oh, thank you for
appreciate it,
having me.
and good
Always.
luck.
Ah,
And let's turn this page and let's move on to the general.
it's about winning, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's get her done.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
I think we've got All right, New Mexico, welcome back to Unfiltered with Elias. I partnered up with Abe Maldonado from the Chili Wire, and we've got state senator and lieutenant governor candidate Senator Gallegos on the phone. So let's bring Senator Gallegos in. Senator Gallegos, you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Hello there.
Sen-
Good to see y'all.
Good to see you, Senator. How are you feeling?
Oh, we're doing really well. We're here in Albuquerque and we just came over to the Doug Turner camp for a little bit. We're headed back to the Republican headquarters, but it's pretty energized. This is really intriguing to see how everyone's coming together.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Did you cast your ballot today? Or did you
Well,
early
I
vote?
did mine. No, I did mine early. I just didn't want to have an accident and find out that I couldn't.
No, that's good to be prepared as you're traveling around the state.
Yes, sir. We've actually done 22,000 miles this last month. So
Wow.
it's been a huge trip around the state, but we're enjoying it. There's a lot of really good people out there to visit with.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Senator, I think it's going to be interesting. The polls just closed about 4 minutes ago. So results should be coming in soon, and we'll start seeing how this election will be shaping up. And we're going to be keeping tabs here. But Senator, just want to ask you what did you see on the campaign trail? What were people telling you as you traveled around the state? I've had the pleasure of knowing you for a very long time, working alongside you, and I know you covered probably just about every road in New Mexico. What was the vibe, and how are people feeling this election cycle? Are they motivated?
They are, just to give you one, Pecos, New Mexico, we're up there talking and listening to the people on how much they understand that we need to have change. And I was telling them, it's one of those things, and there's three running for lieutenant governor. I made a unity speech just a little while ago, and we had in the pre-primary had made a decision that whoever our candidate is, we will get behind that person. And I
Yeah.
hope that we as a state can do that as Republicans because it's huge. The people that are out there understand that we're in a bind. This state is in a position that we have to change, and we have to change now. We can't wait for another 4 years, 8 years, 12 years. We have to do what we need to do right now to protect New Mexico. And it's really intriguing just listening to them on how you think about the old Hispanic culture, how they're looking at what's happened to them in the last 40, 60 years. and they're wanting us to change us to go back in time, not to go back to where we don't have utilities and stuff like that, but go back in time to where we had a mentality of where we served each other. Is more about the people in this state than anywhere else in the nation. I had in that conversation someone tell me that, why are we worried about what's happening in California? We need to watch what's happening here in New Mexico. You think about Ruidoso, you think about up there at Mora, all the fires and everything we've had. We need to work on these people that are there and see what we can do to help them and protect them and stop worrying about what we can't control, which is California and New York.
Absolutely. Well, Senator, I think you might have been listening to our live stream because we were just talking about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, for some reason, progressives in New Mexico, we just tend to follow exactly what California does, and we got to get
Yes.
away from it. And I'm excited by the fact that you're talking to New Mexicans and they want change, right? Everybody wants change. Everybody knows that there's something rotten in this state, and it's progressive policies and progressive politics, And we've got to convey that message. We've got to show people the difference between Washington D.C. policy and New Mexico policy, and the policy that's going on in our state is sending us down a direction that is just tearing us apart.
It is. And different conversation we had in Raton, New Mexico, and I was telling them, as 14th generation New Mexican, this state's worth fighting for. I mean,
Yeah.
you look how beautiful we are from corner to corner. We've got some unique places in this state that are just beautiful. But for us
Mhm.
to give up, and that's what it feels like, people think that we as Republicans have given up because we've had some strife in the party. Well, we've got to get beyond that. We need to look at how do we focus on winning in November. That's the only thing we need to consider right now. We've been working the House and Senate for the last 2 years, looking at how do we govern. Not now. We'll get the governor and the House, and then in 2 years get the Senate. We, when Governor Martinez was in, we handicapped her because we didn't have either of the chambers. If we can change the House this year and in 2 years the Senate, we can govern this state long term. And that's what we need to look at. Where are we going to be at in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years? And what's it going to do for my grandkids and your grandkids? Because it's going to matter.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were talking about a little bit earlier, Senator, was this election cycle. Yes, we're part of it right now, but it's really essentially for our future generations in New
Something
Mexico and
just
how we're going to
froze.
leave this state to them. And is there going to be opportunity? Is there going to be jobs available for them? Is there going to be high quality education access
I
for
don't know
them
if you can hear
and
me, but
in
something just
preparing them for
froze.
the future? So I think it's very important this election cycle that folks get involved.
Yeah, and you know what? We've got 13, 14, 15 generational families in the state of New Mexico, and we've got to convince these people to vote.
Yeah.
We've got to get them to the polls because right now we've got people that they're just moving into our state and they're taking it over.
Yeah. I mentioned this
Yeah.
on my podcast. I said, New Mexico, give Republicans a decade, if not longer, to
Mhm.
run New Mexico and tell me if it was the best decision. Just give it a shot. Vote
Oh,
Republican.
yeah.
And for 10 years, give us a decade, let us enact policies, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, because we just
Yeah.
keep spending. And obviously, spending money isn't giving us a better outcome. We've got to go a different direction.
I'll tell you, an early mentor of mine told me money does not fix problems.
No,
It just does not.
No.
yeah.
Well,
Senator,
they've tried and tried it. It's never worked. So we've got to change something.
absolutely. Senator, I do want to highlight during your time as a legislator, both in the House and in the Senate, you've led some great initiatives, but one that has really been striking is the baby box. You led that effort, and I think it is something that New Mexico should be very proud of because we're protecting children. We're protecting giving life to a baby who may want to be given up by a mother, and we're making sure that that baby doesn't end up harmed. We're providing an opportunity for a mother to safely hand that baby over and
Mhm.
get into the hands of a good family. And Senator, been to your office numerous times, and I know you have pictures of most of the children that have benefited from these baby boxes. But just want you to talk a little bit about your experience with that and kind of where that started for you. Where did you get that information, and what made you say, "Hey, you know what? I need to lead this."
Well, and to go back, it all started when that little baby was dumped in the dumpster there in Hobbs. I live 20
Ah,
miles from there. And to realize that that happens, if those drug addicts actually that found the baby hadn't found that baby would have been buried in the Eunice dump and no one would have ever known. There's no way to track it. But once that became visible, and we saw actually Espanola was already working on this, they started the process getting with Safe Haven baby boxes to set one. I went to their grand opening and we started having discussions on how do we protect the mother and how do we get these statewide? And so in a negotiation, the governor gave the money for the box install, and that's coming due, not that we're out of money, but the timeline is coming due this year. But it's one of those things that you think about it. Our governor, who brought in abortion anywhere in the state to be able to kill a child, put money up on the process to put in these safe haven boxes. I don't understand the rationale behind that, but I'm grateful for it. I mean, God will
Yeah.
use whoever He's got to use to do the right thing. But then
amen
you
to
go
that.
back to the three young men that are alive. I have direct relations with them, and I love them to death. Do I have ownership? I don't. They belong to a mother uh, and a father that is beyond me. But it's one of those things to see them for their birthday or when they come to the Capitol or the first baby, Safe Haven baby, he comes to the house and we actually are gonna, his parents want me to have a direct relationship in raising him later for the rest of his life. That's a huge blessing to me. I've got one granddaughter, I've got two daughters, and now I've got a little boy that's gonna do my yard one day. He doesn't know it yet, but I'm gonna let him cut my grass. But the blessing of seeing them alive and doing well. This little young man is 2 years old, speaks in full sentences, knows colors, knows shapes, knows he is so smart. And to think that his mom's option was killing.
Yeah.
And so we're so blessed that he's going to have an opportunity. And one day, I hope he will tell his story when he gets to the point that he can understand what happened and the blessing that he was given. I think it's going to be one of those things that it's going to be shattering for a lot of people to see how many. I was telling someone earlier, I think we are in an emergency situation right now because we continue to kill the kids of our next generation. We don't even have replacements for New Mexicans. As we die off, we've killed off our next generation. So at some point in time, it's going to be critical, and it'll be critical that Jonah tells the story that he was given a chance at life because of that safe haven box, and that will sell. That little young man will be able to make that point way better than I could ever do it because he's actually lived it, and he's a, a prime choice to show that that process works and that family's benefited and that mama is not harmed that left him in that box. And that's what we want to do. We want to protect the mom and give the child a second chance at life.
Well, yeah, sir. As you know, as conservatives and Christians and pro-life advocates, we've got to give these women another option,
Yeah.
right? I mean, and
We
that's
do.
what this program is about giving them an
Yeah.
option. You know, if we don't want them to have an abortion, we've got to provide options like
Yeah,
this.
provide openings for
Yep.
adoption, right?
Yeah.
Like let's
Oh, yes.
lower the burden on adoption. I have friends who have went through the adoption process, and there is a lot of red tape. It is not an
Yeah.
easy process, and it's actually a very costly one too. It's not cheap, and so
Yeah.
for good families who want children and maybe they can't conceive children, this is an option for them to take in a child and raise a
Yeah.
family.
Yeah, as
It is.
conservatives, we've got to create more options like this. You know, I'm heavily against abortion. I don't believe in it. I'm a Christian man, but we've got to make it easier for families to foster children. We've got to make it easier for families to adopt children, and we've got to create more programs like this where women that don't want to get an abortion but they can't take care of the child have an option to turn over that baby safely, and there's no repercussions. So thank you, Senator Gallegos. I love, safe haven baby boxes. I wish we had them everywhere in this state, but I think it's a wonderful program.
Absolutely.
Well,
Well,
we've got
Senator,
17 and we're not stopping. So I look forward to adding to them as we go. One thing I would like to say is we always need to remember that we need to work at having a man in that house. We need to keep the family
Yes,
together.
sir.
It wasn't just for the woman to have to care for a child, it's a husband and wife. And once we get back to that foundation, we can solve a lot of these internal problems we have statewide.
that is
Yes,
right.
sir.
Well, Senator, I will tell you, we're starting to see some of the first numbers coming in here, and it looks like you have a pretty healthy lead. So that must be something that will make you feel
Yeah.
really good. So just thought we'd let you know that. And since you've been on with us, and I'm not sure if you had time to look or touch base with your
Uh,
campaign staff, but looks like you're in the lead right now at the moment. So it looks like you're going to have some good momentum.
Well, good deal. I appreciate that, but it's been feeling like that all day. I wouldn't. I got up early this morning to pray, and my prayer was it'd be God's will. And all along the route coming up here, we're having people call and text and just really lifting us up in prayer. Had some beautiful prayers sent to me from other people around the state that have been praying for it, and it's going to be a God thing, and that's got to be how it is because in 2012. I was told in Lee County I'd be in the legislature for 2 years. I was 8 years in the House and 6 years in the Senate, and now I have the opportunity to serve in a different capacity, and it's all been God. So I'm blessed and I'm privileged to have this opportunity.
Yeah. Well, thank you, sir, and certainly good luck to you. And you know, we just want to thank you for stepping up and running for this position, and good luck to you, sir.
Yeah. Best of luck, my
Thank
friend.
you. God bless you both. Thank you.
God bless,
Yes, sir.
sir.
See you soon.
We'll see you,
Bye bye.
Senator. Well, folks, on that note, we have some breaking numbers coming in.
Yeah.
Deb Holland is crushing Sam Brigman. I mean,
Look, dude.
oh,
Look, dude, we all knew this was going to happen, right? It's not like it's some kind of big surprise. Sam Bregman has been behind it consistently 26 to 35 points behind Deb Holland. I mean, this entire race. So we knew this was going to
yeah.
happen.
I
But
mean, we're already getting reports here from our team saying NBC News is already kind of getting close to calling it
yeah,
for her. I
yeah,
mean, it's not even 7:30 yet.
yeah.
I mean,
It's
it is
it's
just, and I think this is a good conversation before we move on to our next feature. The semi-primary, open semi-primaries clearly is not helping
no.
because people are already going to vote the way they're going to vote.
Yep. Yeah. Deb Holland was a lock. The Democrat machine pushed her. They raised almost $12 million for her, and that was that's the primary. She
Yeah.
raised 12
And
million.
we're talking about Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer. I mean, outside money, outside interest, just controlling this.
The
Yep.
Soros Foundation, John Morgan. I mean, any and every Democrat from across the country has given this lady money. I mean, 78% of her money is coming from out of state. 22% is coming from actual New Mexicans. So that really tells you a lot about her campaign. New Mexicans aren't heavily involved, but you know, we've got all these outside, you know, people that are just pushing her to win. And look, we knew this was going to happen. I knew this was going to happen. I'm sure a lot of people did. So,
Absolutely. Well, it looks like we have some more guests ready to come on the
yeah.
show. So at this point, I think we're going to take about a 1 minute break, and Elias will be back with some other folks that are in the studio with us tonight.
Yeah, we'll be right back, guys. right, New Mexico, and we're back, and you're with Unfiltered with Elias. First and foremost, I got Zach and I, but I want to say something. So NBC called it. Deb Haaland has won her primary against Sam Bregman, which we all kind of knew that was going to happen. Sam Bregman pretty much got blown out of the water. Also, one other update, New Mexico, it looks like Doug Turner has taken the lead in the gubernatorial race with Duke Rodriguez and Greg Hall. And with that update, I'm here with Zach Anaya, who's running in House District 60. How you doing, Zach?
Good. They haven't counted a vote in my district yet, so
Yeah.
I'm on pins and needles.
So we were just trying to get live updates on yours, and we couldn't log in, and apparently the power went out, and I bet you that's exactly why we couldn't get in.
Yeah, power went out. Pretty much everything north of Black Arroyo and everything west of Unser, which is my district. So that's one way to keep me out of office.
So you're on you're on pins and needles, right?
you-
And it just made it worse, huh?
Dude, I was telling my wife, I feel more nervous now than I did when I was watching her walk down the aisle. This is
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's
man.
a
It really is.
it's a stressful ordeal.
It is.
Running for
It is.
office isn't easy.
But it's over. No
Yeah.
matter what, it's over.
Yeah.
So
Well, if you
we
win, it ain't over. You're in the general.
We're in the general, yeah. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you ran a very strong race against an incumbent, right? A very strong incumbent,
Yeah.
somebody that's held that seat for a very long time. And, you know, I think it's so important that we don't let, you know, these people that have been in office for 10, 15, 20, 30 years get so comfortable. We have to run against them.
Yeah, and I think that we're about to turn the page at the Republican Party of New Mexico. Regardless of what happens at the top with whatever's happening right now,
Mhm.
whoever becomes chair either next month or in December needs to find candidates to run in every single race across the state of New Mexico. Because the fact that my race was so special, it shouldn't have been special. That should
Yeah.
be the rule, not the exception. Every time we have offices up for election. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. I think that win or lose, we hopefully inspired some people across the state that say, hey, if that guy can do it, like we might as well give it a shot.
Yeah. And let me just say this. If it doesn't go your way tonight, which
It might
you know,
not.
it might not. People can lose. I've seen people lose by a vote.
Dude, I thought Deb Haaland might lose. So.
Yeah. But I mean, we just need people like you to keep stepping up and rerun. I mean, rerun. Keep running. Keep speaking out. Don't lose your voice.
My wife is probably saying, shut up, Elias,
Yeah,
please.
probably. Well, it's not easy being in the public eye.
not.
It's not. I mean, I get attacked all the time, right? I had an attack ran on me today, so it
Saw
is
that.
what it
I
is.
saw that. You look good in a hard hat, though.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah.
But, yeah, it was a very interesting race. We didn't go negative. We never attacked him personally. And I guess technically he never attacked me personally either. A PAC attacked me the last couple of days of the election, just calling me out for some of the stuff I posted on Instagram. I used to be a Bernie bro, apparently. So that really.
Well,
gets
you
people
went
upset.
after his record, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's fair game. You get to go after people's record.
It's public information,
Yeah.
man. And even if I wasn't running against him, he is my representative. I
Yep.
should be able to ask questions about those votes and win or lose. Well, if I lose, I'm going to keep asking
Yeah.
questions about the votes. So
Yeah. What were you hearing from people on the ground when you were knocking on doors and talking to people?
well, most people don't even know who their state representative is.
Yeah.
You know, the questions that they would ask are pretty simple. So we would lead. It wasn't like, hey, will you vote for Zach? It's, hey, what is your biggest concern with the state of New Mexico right now?
Mm-hmm.
Say 8 times out of 10, it was the economy. It was
Yeah.
the rising prices. It was, they can't fill up their tank full of gas anymore, and even so we're in a primary, right? So when we talk to Republicans, there was some negativity with the president and, having to overcome that and have people realize that I'm not going to be working with the president. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? I'm running for a state
Mhm.
house seat. So people are scared about where we are as a country, where we are as a state. And I think that really comes down to our leaders getting way too comfortable in Washington and in Santa Fe. So if anything, I hope we moved the needle and we made somebody feel a little uncomfortable and made some
Yeah.
people feel like they can make a difference if they want to.
Yeah. Well, I was just telling Abe earlier, we got to get messaging down. We got to get people to understand the policies that are being passed in New Mexico have nothing to do with Washington,
100%.
D.C. The reason why we're last in everything good and first in everything bad in the state of New Mexico is not because of Donald Trump, but it has everything to do with Democrat leadership in the roundhouse.
Mhm. I mean, New Mexico's been going downhill since Clinton, and then you have Republican and Democratic presidents since then. So obviously, the problem is right here in New Mexico, and it's
Yeah.
the radical policies. And I think the word radical gets thrown around a lot, and probably too often. But the policies that are being passed in Santa Fe right now are extremely
Yeah.
radical. I mean, these emerge candidates. I mean, Dunn and I were sitting out there talking that emerge representatives would have the majority in Santa Fe by themselves if they were their own political party. Like that is mind blowing to me. And we just have no response to it. The Republican Party right now is just a ragtag group of people trying to put up a fight against a well oiled machine.
Yeah. And a well-funded machine. You know, I can't stress this enough. Money is very important in politics because no matter how good your ideas are, no matter how good your record is, if you can't afford to put out a commercial or run ads on social media, you're basically screaming at the wall, you know?
You know, I think we were really blessed in this election that so many of our videos went viral.
Mhm.
I don't think we would have been able to compete. I mean, Josh spent, I think, $15,000 according to the last report on social media ads. I mean, every time I get on, I see that he bought a new playground for Joe Harris Elementary School. Like, I'll say all the accomplishments now. Like, what's it gonna, you know, or endorsed by Greg Hull. Like, that means something in Rio Rancho. And I'm hoping that the messaging that we got across, because everything that we did was, you know, there was substance to it. And I hope it got across to people. And if not, then you know, they made their voices heard, and that's the beauty of elections.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people vote and they speak their mind and they cast that ballot and it means
Yeah,
something, you know?
it does.
So, well, I mean, I gotta say, I mean, just having fresh faces, younger people run is great, right? Because you're not the Janelle Taylor Garcia is
Yeah.
running.
I saw her
I
out
mean,
there holding her sign on
yeah,
Wyoming and Paseo the other day.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're running. Richard Zubia is running. We've got a lot of young, fresh faces in the Republican Party, which makes me feel better, right? Because we're building our bench.
Yeah.
You know, you know, people our age are starting to realize, you know, I got kids and they're getting older and I want to leave a better New Mexico for them.
Yeah, I want them to stay in New Mexico.
Yeah.
That's literally why we're running is I want to leave this place as an option to my kids. You know,
Mhm.
growing up, I always thought, okay, I have to go to Texas or I have to go to New York or Florida to do what I want to do. And we moved to Salt Lake City at one point and we came back because our family was so important while we had our children. But now they're going to be looking at New Mexico as just, you know, the fallback plan. And I
Yeah.
don't want that to be the case in
Yeah.
any way, shape, or form. I mean, our taxes are out of control, crime is out of control, our education is in the dumpster. There are so many problems that not just one politician is going to be able to solve it.
No.
Whether it's me or the governor, none of us are going to be able to solve it on our own until we have leaders that have common sense, not people that are placating to the extremes on both sides of their party.
Yeah.
And right now, our representation in Santa Fe is held hostage by the radical left.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all Republicans are really doing right now is just playing defense, right? They can't really play offense. Their bills aren't really getting heard, you know. So all they're doing is trying to fend off the really extreme policies,
Yeah, like
you
SB
know.
17, I mean, the way we were able to rally, it never should have made it out of committee.
Yeah. Well, the immigration bill should have never made it out of
Mhm.
committee, right? Clear Horizons, all of these bills that are unconstitutional, but we're passing them anyway. That's a real problem.
Because they want to take their chances in the Supreme Court. And I'm not going to say anything about the Supreme Court because we have a case pending in the Supreme Court right now.
Yeah.
But it's when one party controls all three branches of government, there are no more checks and balances at
Yeah.
all. And right now, not right now, I guess for 90 years, the Democrats have had unchecked power in this state. And these are the results. We
Mhm.
see them every day. We're on Central right now. Drive down 2 miles down the road and you'll see the results of Democratic leadership.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a huge problem. I mean, it's a huge problem. It's coming to a head now, and something has to give in this state, right? Something is going to happen that people are just, I mean, either they're going to wake up or we're going to turn into California 100%.
And I don't understand how it continues to get like this. You know, I have friends that are Democrats that were so enamored with Sam Bregman. They loved him. And look at the numbers. How did Sam not put up a fight against Deb?
Well, look, Deb raised $12 million. That's a big reason.
Mhm.
Deb had the backing of the Democrat machine.
Yeah.
I mean, she had the backing from the National Democrat Party, right? Which there's a difference there. You know,
Yes, it is.
they've got a lot of pull. They've got a lot of money. I mean, she got money from the Soros Foundation. She got money from John Morgan. I mean, who didn't Deb Haaland get money from? I mean, you look at her campaign finance report, and it's pages and pages and
I
pages
couldn't
of
even download it. I was telling you this when I was on your show a couple weeks ago. I couldn't get it onto my computer. The computer would shut down.
yeah,
And that just tells you how much money gets thrown into these. And it also tells you how important that
Yeah.
seat is, how
Mhm.
important New Mexico is. And I saw you talking with Greg Cunningham and how important CD2 is. But the governor's position, you know, and I think I'm taking from everybody you've had on the show I've been listening to today. But Doug said the governor that we elect this cycle will be in charge of or be part of the process for redistricting.
Yep.
That's huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we got to be able to fend that off. We've got to, you know, they're gonna if they keep control, they're gonna gerrymander the state even more,
Mhm.
right? They're just gonna do it.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court is very liberal here in the state of New Mexico, and they'll let them do it.
Not egregious enough.
Yeah. I mean, they said the last time in 2021 it wasn't egregious enough, right? And then we created this independent board which completely fell apart, right? So it's very important that we get a Republican in office, especially in the governor's seat, so that we can veto. We have the power of the veto, right?
100%.
And we've got to, you know, that way if Democrats keep sending this stuff up, we just keep sending it back.
And we need to have competitive races across the state so that we can avoid the Democrats having a supermajority, a veto-proof majority. That's when it gets really scary because it doesn't
Yeah.
matter who's sitting in the governor's mansion if the Democrats take, what, 7 more seats?
Yeah.
And that's most of the pushback that I got from so many representatives that, you know, they sided with me. They believe in what I believe, but they just did not want to give up the seat because they believe that if I was the nominee, it'd be a more competitive race against the Democrat. So Republican for the sake of Republican, I get it, but
Yeah. Well, and you're going to keep seeing Democrats in this state try and connect these local races with Donald Trump, right?
yeah,
They're going
100%.
to they're going to
Dress
keep
like him. That's about it.
Yeah, they're going to keep trying to connect your guys' policy with Donald Trump policy. So no. Oh, okay.
I thought we were getting
Yeah.
results from
I know. I
race.
thought we had an update. I thought we had an update. Okay. Okay. Well, you know, Zach, I want to thank you for coming on. I want to thank you for running.
Thank you.
I mean, because it's just so important that people understand how key it is for them to get involved and just run.
Yeah.
Try it.
Well, you know,
What are the first off, what are the qualifications to run for office?
you have to be over the age of 18. You have to be a New Mexican resident.
That's it.
That's
right?
it. No, I mean, for governors, but for this
Yeah.
seat, no, like just a heartbeat,
Yeah.
you know, and,
Yeah,
and be a citizen
exactly.
of New Mexico.
So
And
anybody
actually,
can
in some
run.
cases, you really don't need to be a citizen either. We've seen some of those elected too. So, hi, Cindy.
Well, thanks for coming on, bud. Good luck to you, and hopefully we'll have your results soon. I know that the power went down in your area, so
Yeah. We'll
hopefully
see.
we'll get the results soon. Thank you for coming on. Guys, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. So, hang on. All right, New Mexico, welcome back to Unfiltered with Elias. Thank you for holding on. We had to take a quick break. Now we're here with Aubrey Blair Dunn, candidate for Lieutenant Governor. How you doing, Aubrey?
I'm doing great. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, all the numbers are starting to come in. You're starting to
I
gain some
wouldn't say
ground.
all that
Well,
they're starting.
yeah,
They're barely
starting.
getting in there. So
But
there's
you're
a long
gaining.
ways to go.
Yeah, you're gaining ground though.
Yeah. Well, look, I had an interesting day. I spent a lot of time praying and just thinking about things. And then my daughter got some information today. There's NCAA stuff going on. And you look at life and life changes and think you get thrown curveballs and she got thrown a curveball with what the NCAA did with a new rule today, and so she's got a school that she was really looking at that's probably not going to be an option. And that's life, right? Like,
Yeah.
so that's the way I'm looking at tonight. Is that one way or the other, God's got a path for me, and if it's here in New Mexico as lieutenant governor, great. If it's not, and it's somewhere else, and it's doing something else, I'm totally at peace with it.
Yeah.
So.
Your daughter, who is a star basketball player.
Look, I just to be totally candid and honest, that is the biggest reason I'm at peace with this is because if I don't, and if things don't work out with Duke, like we've talked about in the past,
You're just gonna
it just
follow
means
her.
I get to watch basketball.
Yeah.
Like, I'm totally okay with that. Life will go on. So
Yeah. You
I'm
just
not
gonna
sure how it'll go on for New Mexico, but it will go on.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's the hard thing, right? I
Yeah.
mean, New Mexico is at a crossroads right now.
I call it an edge of a cliff, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we are at an edge of
Yeah,
we're at the edge.
Yeah, you were talking to some of the previous folks you had on, and there's this discussion of, are people really waking up, and are we going to get someplace? Is New Mexico going to finally wake up? And there was the plea for 10 years of letting Republicans have a shot at it. I don't know that New Mexicans are by and large willing to do that. I hope that we're right, and we're seeing people starting to turn the page. But I had the thought while you guys were having that conversation, I believe I said the same things 10 years ago when I was running for state senate.
I'm not, you never know. You never know if people are there yet. But I do feel like eventually New Mexicans will get there. One day people are gonna wake up and they're gonna be like, what is going on?
I hope you're right. People in New York, California, Minnesota, Virginia never got there.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the danger is that, and that's the thing. And when we talk about elections and we talk about this election, and I know you and I have traded text messages and talked about this. We can all say these things like New Mexico has to change and New Mexicans are seeing this, but there was a plea for, I think David said that well, we can win the House this year. There's no realistic way that's happening.
Yeah.
And realistically, it's not what we're seeing. And granted, 62% of the voters in the Democrat primary are women, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not been a shock and that's been consistent for like the last 4 or 5 cycles. 62% of their primary voters are women. Of course, Sam Bregman's not going to win that race.
Yeah.
But it's also been pretty consistent in New Mexico in November. I mean, you have Susanna who went up against Diane Dennis, right? Very unpopular white woman that Susanna spoke to New Mexicans, right? Unfortunately, New Mexicans, I've said this to you, our New Mexican voters aren't dumb.
No.
They're not stupid. They are ignorant, and they don't have the attention span that they need to really lift the state out. So what we're looking at is whether or not tonight we're going to send somebody to go fight with them in November, 2 somebodies, the lieutenant governor and the governor, and then other people up and down the ballot to actually potentially beat them in November. That's what's really at stake here. And I've been saying this on Facebook and other places. Republicans are going to have to start learning. If it isn't this cycle, it's better be pretty quick because I don't know how many more they're going to get. But voting for the player or for the guy or gal that is going to win in June because you think they're the best Republican doesn't necessarily mean that they can win in November. And we're going to have to start looking at you've got to win in November in order to actually fix the state.
Yeah,
that's a thing.
Well, so. I mean that's a hard argument to take to Republicans, right? It really is. That's all. It really is a hard argument.
Like, it is because
because we're so against voting on race and gender and things like that.
Sure, and it's very admirable. I think I know I said this to you in a text message. Voting on principle.
Yeah.
Believe me, I shared with you, and I shared this on Facebook. I shared our conversation. I'm outing you now.
Yeah.
I've never voted for a major party candidate for president, not once. My first election was 2000. I was
Yeah.
18 in 2000. I voted for Libertarian.
Mm-hmm.
I have never voted for a Republican for president because I always stood there and said, this is about not voting for the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
And I hung by that, and my family will tell you I backed Gary Johnson, I backed Ron Paul, I've backed all sorts of people that because they were the best candidate to win. And I will tell you, like we've talked about this, and I've backed Duke, and I'm standing behind him. I think legitimately, I don't feel like I'm voting for the lesser of two evils. I feel like he is the best person to actually run the state from a CEO's perspective and from a business perspective. But he is by far and away probably not the best Republican or the best conservative. So I know the hypocrisy of saying to people, you know, hold your nose and vote for the lesser of two evils or the lesser of three evils, if that's what it is in this race. It's tough, but if you don't win in November, you can't change the state.
Yeah. Well, I've been clear about this, right? There's no way we're gonna have a red wave. That's not gonna happen, right?
No.
But we can possibly win some key seats. You know, maybe we can win CD2, maybe we can win the governor's office, maybe we can win a couple of House seats here and there.
I think the sleeper is CD3. I think
Really?
Martin Zamora is I think she's far more unpopular than Gabe. And the way that they did redistricting, that seat is far more obtainable than even really CD2, because they had to take so much out of CD2 and give it to those other. They had to take so many Republicans out of CD2, and they had to put them someplace. So Melanie's seat is it'll be interesting to watch how Dee Dee does.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that race. That's going to be that's the toughest race, I think, out of the three. But I think Martine, with what northern New Mexico is doing, like Rio Arriba, San Miguel, all of these northern counties that are traditionally very Democrat, those people are pissed. And we talked about New Mexicans getting mad, the stuff in Mora with the fires, all that kind of stuff. CD3 is more in play, I think, than anybody is realizing. And he's a perfect candidate to do that.
He's a very good candidate, and he's a really good man too.
He's an awesome man. He's just an honest, trustworthy guy that people can feel comfortable with, and that they know that he's going to do the right thing because it's just who he is.
Yeah. Well, the stuff that's gone on with these Mora with the
Right.
you know, the audits that have come out. I mean, right now we're seeing audits come out everywhere, and the state's not looking in. I mean, I read the audit from Doña County. I read the Mora audit, and there's just waste, fraud, and abuse everywhere.
Absolutely.
Everywhere in this state, every time we do an audit, and we're just doing these very, you know, I hate to say half-ass, but that's what we're just doing, little half-ass audits.
Sure.
And we're finding all this stuff. You know, if we brought in forensic auditors to really look into these counties, what would we find? You know?
Well, there's a lot to be said for the auditor's office, is one that the Republicans never really focus on.
I know.
There's something to be said for the Attorney General's office. Now, I was asked to consider running for AG instead of running for Lieutenant Governor. And my point is that out of the last, well, let's just say since Hal Stratton, that may date me and you a little bit, but Hal Stratton was AG late 90s, right? Or early 90s. Since him, Raul was by far the best.
Yeah.
And I'm actually very impressed with the job Raul has done in comparison to everybody else. But that's a really important position. And then you get into this discussion of we absolutely have to. It's a stopgap against a disaster. Is the only reason the governor's race is such an important race in this go around, because of the veto pin. That's it. It's just to survive until the next, go around, right? Like the governor is winning the governor's seat is just to survive. But if you really want to change New Mexico, we have to take the House in 2 years, and we have to get a majority in the Senate too. If you really want to start to do change, you have to get those, and you need to pick up in 4 years. You need to pick up these other constitutional offices. The land office is another huge one. People don't understand how big that is. That's a race I'd love to see the numbers on, because if Matt McQueen wins that Democrat primary, which he should, based upon how the progressives tend to circle towards him, and those other two guys are probably going to divide up the Hispanic vote, because that's just the way that New Mexico works. If Matt McQueen wins, Michael's got a real shot.
Yeah.
And that is a very, very powerful office and very important for how the state functions.
Yeah.
You want to talk about how you save oil and gas from what they're doing in Santa Fe? The land office is the key to that. So.
Yeah. I think New Mexicans just aren't educated on what some of these offices really do, right?
Right.
And land commissioner, I mean, that is a very, very key position in this state, as well as, AG. One thing with Raul, I did see, he sued Meta, and then he was going after him for what other damage was it? He was trying to go after him for some other kind of damages.
Right.
I wanted to ask you, because you're an attorney, right? Can he really get that? Can he really get that?
Sure. I mean,
Because at what point do we say as Americans, hey, I got to take some personal responsibility for scrolling, right? If I'm going to sit here and doom scroll.
well, it's like tobacco, right? Like there are products out there that these people know, and I'm a plaintiff's attorney, right? So I tend to be on that side of, I tend to be more on Raul's side of that fight, because I think that what big corporations are doing and what they do with that data. And look, you and I, just because we're having this conversation, I guarantee that my phone's in my pocket, and yours still,
Yeah.
it's still going to show up in our feeds, things to market to us based upon this conversation we're having right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
We all know that happens.
And so, especially when it comes to what Raul's doing, I don't have a problem. They have made billions and billions of dollars by using that information in an unfair fashion to target us and to target our kids. And I think that they should have to pay for that. Those are what we call ill-gotten profits, right? Unjust enrichment. And that's what he's going after, those punitive damages, to say, hey, you knew that this was wrong. You shouldn't be allowed to do it. I don't have a problem with that. Yes, personal accountability needs to be there, but that personal accountability for a big corporation means that they need to pay those punitive damages.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely think that there needs to be age restriction. So, I mean, that we shouldn't be letting our 8 and 9-year-olds go on Facebook.
No,
or
and
any
that's on
kind of
parents,
yeah.
right? Like we've worked through that with my daughter. I mean, yeah, but even with our schools, right? Like we complain about New Mexico schools, and we're still one of the high. We pay our teachers more than most states around us. We
Which
spend
is
more.
still
We spend
true.
more money than any other of the surrounding states on
Mhm.
education, and yet we still have these outcomes. Part of it's, yeah, the schools are crap, and the administrations are sucking all that money up, and it's not really getting to where it needs to go. But the other thing is like you said, and just like voting in elections, New Mexicans are gonna have to start taking accountability for this,
Yeah.
right? Like those are your kids,
Yep. Personal
right? Like I
responsibility.
take responsibility for my daughter. Everybody's got to take responsibility for their kids, but in New Mexico, we have a culture of just saying, "Hey, well, we're going to ship them off to the school. They're the school's problem."
Yeah. Which is the
Right?
wrong way to
Well,
raise a
well,
child.
they're not good at raising kids. Schools are not designed to raise children,
No.
right? Even though we're going to spend a bunch of money we don't have on early childhood daycares and all this other stuff, reality, give the resources back to the parents. Give them a tax break, get rid of income taxes, give them the resources so they can better take care of their kids and so they can be there for their kids. Until we start changing that culture in New Mexico, we're just trying to push a rock uphill.
Well, the city of Albuquerque, $36,000 per student. That's more than any private school in this city.
Yeah, and they pay their teachers more. Well, we pay a bill at Academy, so for my
Yeah.
daughter, so I can tell you that the APS teachers are paid more than the Academy private school teachers.
Yeah. Well,
And it does. Money is not going to fix your problems. Money is not. So to your circle back to Raul, that's not going to fix the problems, but it teaches them a lesson,
yeah.
right? And so, when are we going to start teaching ourselves that lesson? When are we going to have personal accountability? Started today with voting and who you vote for, and again, it's going to come again in November. We'll see where the voters are.
So if you don't win this election, are you gonna hop in the future in any other elections?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been pretty clear about this, that where I felt compelled and obligated, and I felt a calling to run for this. This isn't a job that I ever thought I would have. I've thought about running for governor. In fact, I thought about running for governor this time last year, and I was
Yeah.
contemplating that's what I would do, is run for governor. I've had a lot of people tell me, "Why aren't you just running for governor? You'd be much better at running governor. You'd be great at that job." Number one, I'm realistic, right? Like, and to the point of like saying you should vote for the lesser of two evils. I'm realistic about that with myself. I don't know, and the calling I felt was like for my grandfather, my great grandfather, my father. They've put so much into the state. Do I just turn and walk away from it, follow my daughter across the country and go wherever she's going to go for basketball and move on? And I will tell you, I don't know what we're going to do as a family, because I don't know what New Mexico will look like in 4 years.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, none of us do, right?
Well, I'm just saying, if it is Deb, I can guess it's not going to be good.
Yeah,
So
and
I don't know what I'm going to do.
I think our population will continue to decline if she wins. I mean, she just blew Sam Bregman out of the water. I mean,
Yes, yeah, but let's be clear. If that election were in November, if it was Sam and Deb on the ticket, Sam would win.
yeah,
He would absolutely win in November, and that's why you had a lot of Republicans and a lot of independents gave a lot of money to Sam, right? When he talks about his donations coming from New Mexico, because they can see that he would actually be a decent governor, or at least in their opinion, or at least he would be so much better than her. So if the election were, if this is the two of them in the general election, if Sam had run as a Republican, nobody else ran against him, because clearly that wouldn't have worked for most of us.
yeah,
He would win in November. It's just that simple. The Democrat primary is completely overtaken. You guys are talking about a merge. They own that. They own that party.
yeah.
They own the primary. That's why they have all three branches of the government completely locked up. And as long as the New Mexicans continue to allow that to be the case, and we don't send somebody from the Republican side of the ticket up in November that can actually defeat them, that's not going to change.
Yeah, well, I hear you. I hope people hear you, but
I have a lot of hope for New Mexico. I don't want it to sound like I think that this is it, that there's no chance. I am optimistic. I feel good about tonight. I think no matter what, like I said, I'm at peace with it. But I hope that what I'm seeing is the same things you guys are, is that people are waking up and that there is going to be a chance for some real change. And everything I'm getting from people across the state that I talk to is, yeah, they do have some hope.
yeah,
They really desperately want to see Deb lose in
yeah.
November. And that's important.
All right. Well, New Mexico, that's Aubrey Blair done for Lieutenant Governor. We got to take a short, quick break, and we'll be right back. Thank you, Aubrey, for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, New Mexico, welcome back to Unfiltered with Elias. I want to give you guys some quick updates, right? So it looks like Greg Hall has surged into the lead with 49%. He's got 19,174 votes, followed by Doug Turner at 35%. And Doug Turner's got 13,747. Duke Rodriguez is at 16% with 6,269 votes. So look, we've got 2,204 precincts reporting partial results. So 39,190 total votes have been cast. So we still got some more time, guys. We got a few other races. District 14, Garcia Romero. It looks like Garcia is in the lead, 66.75% to 33.25%. And House District 27, which is our next guest, Janelle Garcia against Godshell. Looks like Janelle is in the lead with 52.70% and Godshell at 47.3%. There's still more votes coming in, guys, but that's just the quick latest update. So let's go ahead and bring in Janelle Taylor Garcia running for House District 27.
Hi.
Hey, Janelle,
Hello.
how are we feeling?
Wind blown after being out in the wind waving to people today.
How was that experience for you? I know when we had you on the Chili Wire, you had never done this before, and I know you were a little bit nervous. You're like, I'm out of my realm here, but how are the feelings right now?
It's been super awkward, but I just sit there and smile at people and wave until they wave back. It's like they can't ignore me. They have to wave.
Well, Janelle, you are in a horse race, it looks like. You guys are pretty close.
I know. It was only 81 ahead a couple minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Janelle, what has your experience been like running for office? We talked. You're a nurse practitioner. You're a small business owner. So this was a big leap to jump into a race like this. But as we talked about on the Chili Wire, you saw a lot of problems happening in your district and in our state, and you said, you know what, I'm ready to make a difference.
Yes, if not me, then who? So
Yeah.
I decided to stand up and go for it.
Yeah. And you're in the middle. I mean, your experience in the medical field and seeing what is going on with our healthcare in New Mexico, I think that was it's a big selling point for New Mexicans. We know that you served veterans, you're serving New Mexicans as a healthcare provider, and I think people really want to see someone like you in office, right?
Yeah, I just feel like I have some really good experience that I can bring to change and bring some common sense to some of these policies and laws. And I feel like I really can make a difference in our state and our district. And I believe that if my district chooses me, I will make sure that I go there and represent every single person and make this a better district and state.
Absolutely. And it'll be necessary, Janelle. Looking here at the numbers, Marion Matthews, who's the incumbent in that district
Yeah.
up in the Northeast Heights area, your district lies right between Paseo del Norte and San Antonio. We're seeing right now, she's in a dead heat right now at 50-50 with Abby Foster, who is, Marion Matthews is pretty liberal, but Abby Foster is on the far left progressive
Yes.
side. And there is a possibility she could beat Marion Matthews. And so this becomes an open seat. And Janelle, you being on that ballot is more important now than ever because that seat can easily get away had we not had a good candidate like yourself up for this position. Because Abby Foster, I mean, we talked about this, Janelle. Marion Matthews gets a lot of credit for doing her job in voting against paid family medical leave and
Mm-hmm.
supporting the medical malpractice bill. But that shouldn't be why she's rewarded. That's doing your job. That's doing the right thing. But
Yeah.
what other issues and what other stances has she taken on other issues? And that's what we have to question is, okay, you voted right on two things, but how have you voted on other things? And that is problematic. And we have to talk about that. And we need leaders in there saying, hey, you know what? You did your job. You voted right on medical malpractice. You voted right on PFML, but you voted terrible on other policies that are not beneficial for our community and for our state. And so right now, it's looking like Marion Matthews might not even be on the ballot.
Yep.
Well, she wrote an article in the Journal last Sunday, and I just completely disagree with her perspective. It was all about compact licenses, and I actually wrote an article in a response back that compact licenses are not the answer. All it does is make paperwork easier for people to come across the state to practice. If people wanted to practice over here, it's a simple application. They'd be here if they wanted to be here. They don't want to be here for a million other reasons, and until you fix that, they're not, the providers, the medical providers are not coming back to the state. And I think people see after her being in this position for so many years that she's not doing the job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we heard a lot of the Democratic lawmakers saying compacts are the way. Well, no, you're not bringing doctors.
It's
Yeah,
not.
you're getting telehealth folks that are able to meet with a doctor or specialist maybe in another state, but that doctor isn't moving here. They're not invested here. They're not bringing their kids to school here. So ultimately, we're not reaping the benefits.
And they're still
So,
susceptible to our laws now.
Right.
You know, they're susceptible to if they're doing telehealth here, they're susceptible
mhm.
to the medical malpractice laws now. You know, we're putting a
Well,
band-aid on something that is extremely
Well,
broken.
and Janelle, I have to ask, there's also a possibility where we see current doctors here residing in New Mexico saying, you know what, I'm actually going to now move to Texas and Arizona because I could still serve my patients here in New Mexico, but I don't have to deal with the crime. I don't have to deal with the poor education system. And I can still serve my patients here in New Mexico and live a better high quality life in another state.
Well, my article that I wrote, I mean, I am getting my doctorate and I wrote lots of papers. So the article I wrote highlights the fact that Medicare is now taking away and not reimbursing telehealth. That started at the beginning of the year, and then they took it back because they were like, well, we can't do this with some type of notice. Like, we have to like kind of prolong this a little bit longer. But at some point, I don't see telehealth, the way that Medicare is going right now, anyways, continuing to be any type of solution for long term, solutions. So,
Yeah, and let's face it, physicians aren't going to use it if Medicaid's not paying for it.
Right.
They're just going to bail out on telehealth. Why do it if 90% of your patients are on Medicaid and they're not going to pay you for it?
yeah, it was Medicare, and we were pretty shocked because especially for our state, it's a very rural state in comparison with the United States. The number of people that we have per area is significantly smaller than the rest of the US. So that makes it harder as well as being significantly rural. And I mean, I do believe that telehealth is necessary for those people, but there's national issues that are happening that I don't think people are aware of, that's going to maybe take that access away. And so we can't rely and depend on that or compact licenses. It's unrealistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, doctors are going to continue to leave. I mean, um we've got to make up ground on the quality of life. We've got to make up ground on providing better neighborhoods, better homes, better education. I mean, it's
Safe
not,
streets.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not just the medical malpractice stuff, you know? And I
So
think
my
that's why we got to get people like you in office so we can really start changing these things.
Well, my thing too is that, educated doctors, healthcare professionals in general, from, x-ray techs to ultrasound techs, all the way up to PAs to, nurses, nurse practitioners, they don't want to raise their families and their kids with the education the way it is. You
Yeah.
can go to, like you mentioned, you can go to Texas and send your kid to public school and get an amazing education, but you can't do that here, being last in the entire United States. So, yeah, we're not going to bring doctors back to our state to practice here with a compact license.
Yeah. And we always talk about the doctors, the doctors, the doctors. The state of New Mexico is short like 6,000 nurses
Nurses. Yeah.
too,
Right.
Exactly.
you
And
know?
Right.
Janelle, as we talked about, folks like yourself actually filled the void of the
Mhm.
doctors that we did not have. And there are protections that exist now for doctors, but don't exist for nurse practitioners and our nurses who are susceptible to also medical malpractice lawsuits.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of do feel like in this whole crisis, the people that stood up and kind of stood in that gap and have practices. I mean, there's Ortega Wellness, Rio Grande Urgent Care, Becky Gonzalez, Monica Ortega, Eva Houghton. Like, I have really good friends of mine who are nurse practitioners and stood up and said, we're going to care for the communities in New Mexico, right? And you're right. I don't feel like we were taken into consideration in a lot of these things.
Yeah. Well, we want to thank you, Janelle. We know you're heavily invested into the state of New Mexico. Now you're running for an office. You're getting the numbers coming in show you in the lead. So we we want to wish you luck, but
Thank you.
you've done an excellent job. You've ran an excellent campaign. So
Thank you.
keep your head up and keep chugging along, and hopefully we'll get you to the roundhouse.
Thanks. I haven't been this nervous since like the first day of school. I haven't been able to eat all day. I'm just so nervous. I'm like, but
Well, you're
thank you
not the
both. I
only
really
one. There's a
appreciate you
lot of
so
other
much.
candidates too.
Yeah. So thank you both.
Well, thank you, Janelle. Best of luck tonight, and
Thank
we
you.
look forward to seeing you on the general ballot for 2026.
Yeah. Good
Thank
luck,
you
Janelle. We'll
guys.
talk to you
Thank
soon.
you for everything you do. Okay, bye.
Thank you.
All right, New Mexico. Why don't we update some people on some numbers real
Yeah,
quick?
let's do it right now.
Let's
Man,
update them.
there are some folks right now, some incumbents that are in some very tight races. I'm just going to start off in the House of Representatives. Let's start District 4. This is Joseph Hernandez out in the Shiprock area, Navajo Nation. He is backed by a lot of the environmental groups. His main job is considered activist. That's his community organizer. He's running against Christina Aspas, former school board member at Central Consolidated School District. Looks like she's giving him a good run. Right now, it's 51% to 49%. He is barely leading that race. And so we also have a Republican challenger in that district with Heather Scott Ellison, who's also up for that. She is running solo for the Republican contest, so she will be on the general ballot. Moving through, let's go down to Martha Garcia. Martha Garcia was appointed by Michelle Lujan Grisham, who filled the vacancy of Harry Garcia, who was removed due to residency issues. It looks like she is going to lose to Johnny Valdez. So, don't know a whole lot about Johnny Valdez, but this is a 4-person race here. They challenged Martha Garcia. David Alcone also jumped in. That's former Representative Eliseo Alcone's son, who ran for that office. Doesn't look like he's going to get enough votes trying to follow his dad's legacy there. So looking like we may have a new person in that office come 2027.
Good. We need to change some of this stuff up. I mean, we need to change some of these seats. Some of these people get too comfortable.
Yeah.
They get too comfortable and they start feeling like they can do and vote however they want, and they forget about their constituents, you
Yeah.
know?
And I think that's where there is some merit to discuss the idea of term limits, right? Like, hey, at the end of the day, all the way down to your local government, there should be some term limits because eventually people, like my dad used to say, can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah. I think term limits needs to be a major conversation that we're having in this state, because we've got some people in office that have been there entirely too long.
Absolutely.
And they stay in Santa Fe in the roundhouse, and they don't even have to work for their campaign cash, right? Because the lobbyists come in and throw them 10 grand here, 20 grand here. Their meals are all comped. They're eating steak dinners. Their campaigns are flush with cash.
Yeah, and it's all because of interest groups right now. A lot of these
Mhm.
interest groups wine and dine them at the Rio Chama and Bullring and Santa Fe, and it's really those folks that are pulling the strings. I mean,
Yeah.
like Deb Holland, her strings are being pulled. She's really just a puppet, and she's going to do exactly what they say. All these interest groups are telling her, "Hey, this is the plan. This is the script. Stick to it."
Yeah. Yeah, I think New Mexicans really need to step back and ask themselves, why are 78% of people from out of state giving Deb Holland money?
No.
There's a reason for that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not just giving it to her just because they're friends. I know she wants to say that and she's going to try and convince everybody of that, but that's not the truth, right?
No, it's an agenda being pushed. I
Yep.
mean, you see these numbers. I mean, this landslide victory of hers is it's not about policy. It's not about the best interest of New Mexico. It's about the best interest of the agenda that is running her machine
Yeah.
at the end of the day. Right now, looking at District 26, both of these races, both on the Republican and Democrat side, running on unopposed, but Eleanor Chavez recently in the last about year or so has gone as far to say in committee hearings that law enforcement officers, I'm not even talking about immigration officers, I'm talking about our, city police, our state police. She said that our law enforcement officers are the equivalent to the KKK, which is just
Wow.
wild.
That is insane. That is
And
that is so crazy to me that we have people elected to public office that say things like
it's
that.
dangerous rhetoric, Elias.
Yes.
It is dangerous rhetoric when you start saying things like that. And you start kind of indoctrinating people to believe that law enforcement officers are the bad people when they're not, because they're the first line of defense that you call when you have an issue.
But you put them in danger.
Mhm.
You know, she's coming from a position of power and she's telling New Mexicans that these people are no better than the KKK, and that is saying something when it comes from a representative,
Yeah.
you
It
know?
is very dangerous. Well, she has an opponent in the general and Corey Zimmerman, who I've had the pleasure of meeting. I don't know if you've met Corey. Corey is wonderful. He does a lot of work in the hospice field, and shout out to Corey for taking the leap of faith to do that. Because,
Yeah.
like Janelle, I know he's been nervous and he's been scared because it is a scary thing when you put yourself out there, when you do what we're doing right now. We're just talking. I'm sure there's going to be people out there saying, look at these guys. They're
Mhm.
fascists. They're part of the
Oh, yeah.
KKK. And I mean, apparently you're part of the good old boys club too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But shout out to Corey. If you all don't know Corey Zimmerman, please look him up because he is running against someone who is spreading very dangerous rhetoric.
All right, guys, we're going to bring on our next guest, Rebecca Dow, Representative
Representative.
Rebecca Dow. So let's bring her in.
Hello, Representative. How are you?
Hi, guys.
How are you feeling tonight?
Oh my gosh. Well, here's the problem. If I sit down, I fall asleep. So I'm glad you're going it was like such a nail biter, and then the numbers came in so quick. And I actually have some even some of the Democrat races that I was really excited about and hoping for a different outcome for some of these moderate Democrats that still believe in self governance and the beauty of our beautiful constitutional republic. And so, it's disappointing to see how far left the Democrat Party in New Mexico has pivoted, but very exciting to see the general and know how where the everyday New Mexican is compared to what this primary looks like. We have
Yeah.
great candidates in the Republican Party, and several of them have really good shots in some of these open seats where
Yeah.
the progressives decided to go further left.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were just talking about Marion Matthews' district where she's in a dead heat right now with Abby Foster, and it's looking pretty close. And so there may be an opportunity there for someone like Janelle Garcia to flip that district the other way.
Yeah.
And Mel Garcia is phenomenal. We're talking about a nurse's physician. She's a business owner. She's got 2 children in K-12. She is living out the failed policy of New Mexico that are being imposed on her by the far left. So she's very highly motivated to win that seat in the general.
Well, you had your own issues this year with the far left, right? You were taken off the ballot and then you had to fight to get back on.
This is nothing new for me. I am at the point where if a stranger is approaching my door and it's not a mail delivery, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting served again. I've, I've been sued and IPRID and audited so many times. I think I've got to be one of the most vetted candidates in the state house at least. But New Mexico deserves better, and those things just make me want to work harder. When you go out and you knock doors and you get engaged in the community, you go out to events. I am 1000% certain that the everyday New Mexican is purple and probably leans right.
Yeah.
They are used to voting Democrat, but registration is changing. This was our first time when folks really tried to get those independent declined estates to swing one way or the other. And I think in at least in the governor's races, Bregman was trying to get them to come out for him. Duke was trying to get them to go out for them. And all day long, I've had people that were independent, declined to state, and others say, I went and got my ballot, and there were no governor candidates on it. So they didn't know they had to ask for it's this education thing, right? They didn't know they had to ask for either Republican or Democrat. It was interesting to me, but clearly progressives, the far left, the ones who want to take away your constitutional right to bear arms, the ones that want to drive a wedge between parents and their children, the ones that want to see girls' faces invaded by biological males, they won today. And so it's
Yeah.
up to New Mexicans to decide if we're with status quo or we're going to stand up and we're going to turn it around in November.
Absolutely. And Representative, on that note, it seems like lately, over the last couple of years, we've seen these progressive lawmakers infiltrate the legislature, especially trial lawyers, who go on the record saying, yeah, this might be unconstitutional, but I'm still going to vote for it, which is wild to
You
me.
know,
Yeah.
isn't that wild? Because they know that they can just they've also, they've got a lot of judges. And so a lot of judges are also emerge grads. And so they know that we are going to have to find the money to take it to appeals court, to take to get something overturned could take all the way to the Supreme Court. So it's a very difficult situation in New Mexico, but the trends are trending red. When you're seeing historically red districts like Hidalgo and Deming and Socorro and Valencia and Guadalupe and Cibola, they are trending red. There are opportunities for us in November if people are willing to get out and vote. And
Yeah.
it's very, very frustrating to see the progressive wing of New Mexico funded by out of state dollars.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And Representative,
The
on that note, I
Republicans
mean,
have to win on grassroots.
Absolutely. And on that note, it seems like Sam Brigman and Duke Rodriguez played heavily into the semi-open primaries, believing that independents were going to
Yeah.
be the game changer. It doesn't look like they played a big role in that right now. From the numbers that we're seeing, it looks like what we thought was going to happen happened, and
Yeah.
the independents didn't nudge those numbers up any more than what we had assumed that they would.
Well, I think we got to face
Yeah,
it, right? They just didn't excite they didn't excite that those voters.
Yeah.
Their messaging wasn't down. They didn't have it down right. So, I think we know Republicans vote in Republican primaries, Democrats vote in Democrat
Mhm.
primaries, unless, the messaging is right and we excite them.
Right. And
And
your staunch independent, if they are independent, but they are leaning very heavily progressive or very heavily conservative, then yes, they may go ask for the
mhm,
ballot, or they'll just say, hey, you know what, I'll wait till the general and I'll vote in the general.
yeah.
yeah. I think that's what we
Representative,
saw. Yeah.
I want to get your perspective because you've been a longtime advocate for education and for children, taking on CYFD. How consequential is this election if a Deb Holland is elected? Because I fear for families under her leadership.
It is so consequential. It's hard to say that there's any difference between the state of New Mexico electing Deb Holland and if the United States of America had elected Kamala Harris. And so their policies are parallel. Their ability to articulate their platform and their plans parallel. It's horrifying to me to think of Deb Holland being the next governor of New Mexico. We are the second wealthiest nation in the union, the government. Their reserves, every sock drawer in Santa Fe is stuffed with millions of dollars. Over $60 billion we have in reserve, and the people are poor. And that's because of policy. Why
Yeah.
does a state with our type of wealth even have a pothole?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it. But I think we have a great opportunity. All three of our gubernatorial candidates had very, very, very strong experience and plans and platforms. And, it's so easy to get behind whoever prevails in the Republican primary because the choice is so clear. It is so clear.
Yeah. Well, I've been saying this since the beginning, right? Republicans need to unify. Whoever wins these primaries, we need to get behind them and we need to push.
Yeah.
We
I think the struggle has been though, right? As conservatives, we're very individualistic, right? And so like it, in comparison to the Democrat Party, that the hot take here, they are sheep, right? They like all
Mhm.
fall in line and they say, "Hey, Kamala Harris is our person. We're all aligning there. Deb Holland is our person. We're all aligning behind her." Conservatives,
Yeah.
we don't like being told
Yeah.
what to do, right? That's what makes us conservatives. We're
Right.
very individualistic. We think for ourselves. We make decisions for ourselves upon what we look at, what we research, and what we find, and what we believe, and what our moral compass is. We say, "Hey, yeah, you know what? I don't want to fall in line. I don't want to be told what to do." And I think that's where we have historically struggled in this state is that I would love for us to unify, but I think sometimes our own individualism holds us back a little bit. And it's a great quality to have until it come general time. Whoever comes out of this, I agree. We need to support them because the consequences
Absolutely.
and the outcomes are way too pivotal right now to even just say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to sit this one out." No, you cannot sit this out because we are at a crossroads here.
well, I just
And you
got
know, I mean,
some I'm sorry. Oh, I just got some numbers. So it looks like the Democrat Commissioner of Public Lands, the primary Juan de Jesus Sanchez III, leads with 55%, ahead of Matthew McQueen and ahead of Jonas Moya. So it's looking more and more like Juan de Jesus Sanchez is going to take
Who is
that
backed
seat.
by our senator here in New Mexico, Martin Heinrich,
Mhm.
who is the first to endorse, but very problematic because he is not going to be friendly to oil and gas.
No, no, and he,
right. So
I think a lot of people know him because he's got a pretty big profile on Instagram and
Mhm.
TikTok, but he's got his messaging down.
Yeah.
what's his messaging?
I mean, he was very family oriented, right? In his
Yes.
commercial, he used his family, talked about conservation and being a longtime conservationist. Holding oil and gas accountable, which we already do. We work
Of
under some of the
course,
most
of course.
stringent
Yeah.
regulations in the world.
Right.
In fact, we need to highlight this because it is important for New Mexicans to know New Mexico provides the cleanest barrel of oil in
In the
the
world.
entire world.
Yep. In
In
the
the
entire
entire
world.
world. So in addition to all the federal standards, which are mostly aligned with have been over the years with the Paris Climate Accord, we add state standards on top of that. And so that is a very true statement. When I hear the word conservationist, I think about farmers and ranchers. And so the narrative been turned so upside down. When the true conservationists are the ones who are the stewards of the land every morning, every night. They are um, putting in tanks and improving our watershed. Yes, for their cattle, but also improving the wildlife. And in addition to that, the wildlife habitat. And in addition to that, they feed our families 3 times a day. So when I think about the true conservationists of New Mexico, I think the most local is the farmer and the rancher, and of course, our soil and water conservation districts. But there's
Absolutely.
this narrative out there. They're using the terms. They're so good at stealing our terms.
Yeah, absolutely. And Representative, on that note, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Michael Perry, who's running for state land commissioner on the Republican side. And he said, your job as a conservationist is, yes, to conserve, but you also utilize and respect the natural resources that are given to you. So, yes, you live off them, you use them, whether it's water, whether it's oil and gas, and you conserve them, but you use them. You like we would not have the innovation in modern science without oil and gas.
Yep.
Hospitals would not thrive without oil and gas.
Yeah.
Well,
I
let's talk about why. It's because these are the plastics that are in so
Mhm.
many products in hospitals and in healthcare. If oil and gas is gone, so are those products, those
Absolutely.
petroleum products.
When I worked for the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association, Representative, you'll love this story. I used to go into classrooms and talk to high school kids about what have you heard about oil and gas, and they would say pollution, dirty
yeah.
water, all this stuff, and I would say, okay, understandable. That's what you hear. How many of you girls in the classroom love makeup? They all raised their hand. I'd ask the boys, how many of you love your Jordan shoes? They'd raise their hand. Well, all those materials are made from petroleum byproducts. So you are wearing an oil and gas product on your
Polyester.
face,
Yeah.
right? You're walking out. How
Yes.
many of you love your stretchy clothes, right? We love polyesters now. We
Yeah.
love stretchy
Yeah.
clothes and comfy clothes.
Yeah.
And it is all derived from oil and gas.
Well,
Yeah.
and even folks talking about, the rising cost of oil and gas, gas at the pump. It's terrible right now. But it shows how completely dependent we are on oil and gas.
Yeah.
Oil. And so to convert to electric only, I don't even know how that is obtainable financially for the average New Mexican.
It's
It's
But
not.
not.
that's the path.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean,
Unless
It's a
Michael
pipe.
Perry
electric
wins,
companies rely on
that's
oil and gas to provide the power necessary.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
right. They're not self-sufficient. They're not off the grid. The most affordable, reliable, and cleanest energy
Nuclear.
is natural gas.
Yeah.
Natural gas. Well,
Nuclear, right?
nuclear. Yeah. Well, yes, nuclear. If we had the capacity,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's what
Well,
Bill Gates says.
I want to give a quick update. So I just got New Mexico House District 27 Democrat primary. So it looks like Marion Matthews is leading Abby Christine Foster by just 18 votes. So apparently they're 50-50 with all
So a
38 precincts
recount,
reporting.
you have to win by more than 1% not to have a recount. Do you see the
Yeah.
totals there?
Yeah.
Well, I
Is
want to
it is
thank
it is
you,
there a large
Representative
enough
Dow.
turnout for? Thank you. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I want to thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. We got a few more guests to get in tonight. And good luck to you.
Yeah, Representative, we appreciate your time. We look forward to seeing you on the general ballot. We're glad that you were able to get that taken care of. And we look forward to continuing seeing your leadership in the roundhouse.
Yes.
Thank you so much. You guys
Thank
have a
Thank
great
you,
you.
evening.
Thank you,
Representative.
Representative. All right, guys, we're going to be right back. We got to take a quick break, and we will be right back with Pastor Steve Smotherman. right, New Mexico, welcome back to Unfiltered with Elias. We are doing live updates of this year's primary. I'm here with Abe Maldonado with the Chili Wire. We've got our next guest coming in. It's Pastor Steve Smotherman of Legacy Church, a very influential voice in this state.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's bring
Pastor
him in.
Steve.
Yeah, let's bring him in.
Hey guys,
Hey,
Hey,
Pastor
Pastor
Steve.
Steve.
how y'all doing?
Doing good. Little bit. Our heads are spinning a little bit with the results, seeing the progressive movement take full effect
Yeah.
on the Democratic side, and seeing some pretty competitive races on the Republican side.
Yeah. We're pretty not shocked on some of them, right? We all knew Deb Haaland was going to blow Sam Bregman out of the water, but you know, it is what it is. But we're happy to have you on, sir. I mean, how important do you think it is for congregations like yours to get out and vote?
Well, just so you know, Elias, my brother Troy's sitting here, Pastor Troy from Roswell. I don't know if you can see us. Can you see us?
We got a little
Yeah.
bit of a delay, so
Okay. So
Hi guys.
he's with me here too, and he's from Roswell. He's a big fighter and conservative, and so you know here's the deal. If Christians would just vote, we could change our state.
yeah,
And too many of them have been indoctrinated into false teaching to say that, well, politics is not my thing, but they run your life, and they either affect you positively or negatively. And I'm just going to be blunt. Look how dumb people are to vote for Deb Haaland. You have to have an IQ of about 10 to vote for some quack like that. She's dumb. She's not. I mean, when she was an Interior Secretary for Secretary of Interior for Biden, she didn't even know where $2 billion went.
Yeah.
no,
And
yeah,
so, for to me, believers to come out and vote would change everything. If we could get 50 to 60, 70% of people who call themselves believers to vote and vote a biblical worldview, we could change everything.
yeah,
Absolutely. And Pastor Steve, on that note, I think what we're seeing now, yes, we talk about policy, but we're also seeing a good versus evil battle
hmm,
happen right now in front of us.
yep,
No doubt.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Go ahead,
progressives
Troy.
just seem to keep falling forward. They keep they fail at one position and they just get a higher office. It's astounding to me. Yeah, and it truly is a battle of good and evil, and people like us are just gonna have to keep standing in the trenches to fight it, you know?
Yeah.
You know, there's a pulpit issue and a pew issue. And I think the pew issue exists, as my brother said, Pastor Steve, is because of the pulpit issue. We have a lot of pastors that will not speak up, not stand up. Again, they think it's political when it's leadership is always deeply, deeply spiritual. All
Yeah.
throughout the Bible. All throughout the Bible, leadership is deeply spiritual. It has serious spiritual implications. And Deb Haaland is a devout communist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She is probably good. She's probably the worst spiritually and fiscally political person that we could ever have as a governor. And they've turned out the vote. She got 88,000 so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
and you
when
know,
oh, go ahead, Pastor Steve.
I was just going to say, it is not Republican versus Democrat anymore. It is good versus evil.
It
That's
is.
just
Mhm.
that's what he was saying. That's the only way to describe it. What he just your buddy there described it. It is good versus evil, and it's not the Republican Party is all spiritual and everybody there believes in God, but they believe mostly they believe in the principles of our Constitution of the United States, which gives us the freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and freedom of the press and so it is good versus evil.
Yeah. I think, conservatives for the most part follow their moral compass. Now, I'm not going to tell you all conservatives are perfect and are spiritually in tune. But what we're seeing from the progressive movement, they don't have a moral compass.
No, they don't. And Pastor Steve, I steal this from you because the last time you were on my podcast, you told me this. But when Christians say they don't want to be in, they don't want politics in the church, I think you said it best: is God raised kings up and He took them down. And I think as Christians, that's how we need to look at it. God's been political since the beginning. He's raised kings up and he's taken them down. So as Christians, we have to know that.
Well, what we got to realize is that you know, when we vote these ungodly, unprincipled, demonic people into office, which I've called Grisham that many times,
Yes.
when we vote them in, then what do they expect? It's going to be more evil, more awful.
Hmm.
She was a tyrant, and
Yeah.
she didn't believe in our Constitution. She actually said it, right? That do you think your Constitution or constitutional rights are guaranteed? Well, they are under the Constitution,
Hmm.
but she
Yeah.
didn't believe that. And
It's
what
called
my
the Bill
brother
of
Troy
Rights
just
for a
said is,
reason.
I know. And what my brother Troy just said was interesting. Deb Holland is just wicked.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it is good versus evil,
Yeah,
guys.
and Pastor Steve, I think what we're seeing too from that side, one, I'm sure you saw what Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham said, that they don't need men. That she's
Hmm.
ultimately saying men aren't needed, and we've heard the
Yeah.
progressives say
Go
that
ahead,
many
Grant.
times, that men aren't needed in the household. Women, you don't need men. You don't need
Yeah.
men to raise your kids, and it is dangerous rhetoric. And then also, I mean, just the whole belief that she has on a number of issues. I mean,
Yeah.
just moral issues has been way off.
Well, they want the government to raise our
Yeah.
families, and they
And
want men out so that they can raise up a whole batch of single women, all dependent on the government, a whole batch of single men dependent on the government, and then they lock in their seats and their votes.
and it goes down to even a little bit further, is that when you keep people poor and you keep them uneducated, you control them. And that's exactly what is happening right now.
Hmm.
Teachers unions are wreaking havoc. We have the interests of adults over children playing out right in front of us.
Yeah.
Education right now is the civil rights issue of this generation.
Mm.
And we are failing our kids, and they are being indoctrinated to believe a lot of this progressive rhetoric.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
guys, I want to say something about the morality issue. Years ago, when President Bush won, the younger, the son, won his first election, they interviewed a Democratic operative, uh, and this I'll never forget when she said it, because I sensed such evil in it. That's back, and I don't know how old you guys are, but the moral majority helped Bush win.
Hmm.
They called themselves the moral majority, and she said, "We have moral when they lost. We have morality too, and we're going to start making a moral case for our cause." And they started right then. I watched it sway. Started talking about the rich versus the poor,
Hmm.
Hmm.
homosexuality. They do have a moral code, but we would call it immoral. They have an
Yeah.
immoral code led by the enemy, but I'll never forget listening to that conversation and her saying that. And so they are espousing a morality, but according to the word of God, and anybody with any common sense, it's immoral. But
Yeah.
they are speaking about a type of morality and saying that anything opposed to it is hatred. And so
Yeah.
that's Deb Haaland. That's the politicians in New Mexico that have been running our state for 100 years. And so it's
Yeah.
real vital that pastors and Christians and conservatives stand up and speak about our morality and call on the Christians to vote. And I'm going to say this. I had people come to me. I had somebody come to me about running for this or that for the state. And I asked her, I said, "You're asking me to stand up for you. Is your pastor standing up for you?" And she said, "Well, she him all around." I said, "I already knew the answer. I know who her pastor was." I said, "I know the answer. He's not going to say a word.
Yeah.
But you come and ask me to do it. You come and ask my brother to do it. But their own pastors won't." And so I think Christians need to realize they need to either come out of those churches or they need to go to their pastor and say, "Pastor, it's time we speak up.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
time we stand up and speak up, because it is good versus evil. And the church has always been called to speak on those issues to
Yeah.
authority, to leadership. And if we don't do that, we're going to have the same old, same old."
Yeah, absolutely. And Pastor Steve and Pastor Choi, I'm Catholic, and I see the same thing happening in the Catholic Church. Is just we see a lot of our priests afraid to take the hard stance, and they're just afraid to get involved. And it's just one of those things where it's like, no, we need to step up and we need to call out good from bad and evil versus good.
There's a Catholic church right now in Albuquerque that on the sign of the front of the church, it says, uh, ICE is meeting at the Frontier restaurant. Do
I
not
saw
go to the
that.
Frontier restaurant. And for a priest to put that, it's unreal.
Yeah.
They're desensitizing New Mexicans, right? We're
Well,
now
and law
one of the
enforcement
abortion.
at the end of the day. I mean, we could talk about tactics, we can talk about other things, but don't demonize law enforcement because now you start putting people in a position where now the far left progressives have said it's okay to go antagonize and harass police officers.
Mhm.
It is okay, and if they arrest you or they do something to you, well, then we're just going to call them fascists.
Yeah, they're in the wrong, right?
Hmm.
We have our own representatives in Santa Fe calling law enforcement KKK. We're now the abortion capital of the United States. We have, Congressman like Gabe Vasquez wanting to defund the police. I
Yeah.
mean, at some point, we're just gonna have to draw a line in the sand. I mean, this
Yeah,
is
and bring back some accountability and just
yeah.
common sense. I think this is the battle that we're fighting too. Is let's get back to common sense because when I was growing up, if my grandmother, my grandparents, they would say if someone got in trouble, like if I had a cousin who got in trouble, got arrested, there was some accountability because my grandma wouldn't be like, "Oh no, those terrible police." You know what my grandmother would say? What did he do? What did she
Mhm.
do? There was some accountability there as to what are the consequences to your actions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my question to you guys would be, if you're members of the Catholic Church.
No, Elias, he comes
No,
on.
I'm
Okay.
not
If you're a
just
member of the Catholic, if you're a member of the Catholic Church, what do you do? What are you gonna do? Because we know if the Catholics voted, their morality, that we'd win the Christians, people who carried our same values, would win every election in New Mexico.
Absolutely.
So my
Absolutely.
question is, what do you say to your priest? What do you say to your congregation? What are you going to say to Catholics? Because we know that the majority of them are still voting Democrat.
Yeah.
They're that deceived.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me is start tying in your readings, your gospels to contemporary events. What is happening? And talk build that bridge of here's what the gospel says, this is how it's happening right now in front of you. How do those two relate? I also think what I would tell my congregation, and these are conversations that I've had with my wife and others, is that at some point you have to say, if not me, who, and start getting involved with the ministries within the Catholic Church and start educating and start having access to your priest to say, hey, you know what, I disagree with you, I believe that you need to do this, or you need to do that, or you need to explain how this reading relates to this issue that we're seeing right now.
Yeah. Well, luckily in my church, we live and die by the Bible.
Yeah.
So in my church, we're taught the Bible and scripture tells us exactly what we should do. And I think a lot of these other churches need to do that.
Yeah.
They need to look at that Bible and they need to live by that Bible.
Absolutely. And I know one thing about the Catholic folks, and especially people in my congregation who are amazing people, they are compassionate individuals, but they believe that if they take a hard line on something, that they're not compassionate. And that's not true. You can look at something and still be compassionate, but draw a hard line and say, yeah, you know what? This maybe crosses the line here. And I'm compassionate, but I'm also not going to be tolerant either.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a
Well, it
firm
comes
believer.
down to,
Go ahead, sir.
I'm sorry. It
No.
just comes down to, we're to tell the truth in love.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
just what you were saying is that we have the love and compassion of God, but we also have to tell the truth.
absolutely.
Hmm.
In telling the truth, if you have truth without love, you have religion. If you have love without truth, you have secular humanism. And
Yes,
so,
sir.
but truth and love is what creates Christianity. That's
Absolutely.
what God
Mhm.
calls us to do. And so it's time for us to speak even more. And we're obviously talking to the choir, Pastor Steve and you guys and me.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got to motivate more people to take a stand and to actually show up and vote.
You know, Elias, let me say this about that. The problem with Christianity and when it's with Catholics and all that in the group is that they will try to convince their priest to believe something they don't believe, and they can't do it. You don't leadership. You don't. If I'm at a congregant, you don't get to tell the priest or the preacher what to preach. They're going to do what they want to do. And my thought would be that these Christians need to come out of these places and find places that truly believe, like my brother's church or our church, that truly believe in the gospel. And we don't think it's a hard stand. We just think it's a biblical stand.
It's a
Yeah.
compassionate.
Yeah.
And it is compassionate to tell like a homosexual that if you keep living this lifestyle and die, you'll go to hell. That's compassion.
Mhm.
What's when you're being when there's no compassion is when you say it'll be okay. God loves you the way you are. No, we come to him the way we are, but he expects us to change and change to his moral compass, to his word. And people don't want to do that. So it's time we came out and of these places and just said, you know, if that's what you want to believe, believe it. But as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord and we're going to
Yeah.
do what's
Amen.
right biblically and we're going to do what's right morally. And you know, stand, you know, people criticize me, well, you're so political. I said, what did I say? Well, you talked about abortion. Well, wait a minute, when did that become a political issue? That's always
Mm.
been a moral issue. It's always been against God's word to kill and murder babies. And so, but the world has come in and politicized the church. The church didn't politicize itself, and they brought politics in, and they call everything politics. Why? Because the left, the liberals, the ungodly want to silence the church, and they've done a pretty good job.
Yeah, and on that note, Pastor, I think you're spot on. Is that we see a lot of Christians right now afraid to be proud and say it out loud that they are Christians, that they have their faith in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Like it's just one of those things where people are afraid to say that, and I think Christians have kind of stepped back and really don't talk about it. You know, they kind of keep the opinions to themselves, and I think we need to unite and say, hey, if you're Catholic, I mean, Christianity, if you're just Christian in general, be proud of it. Don't feel like you have to be silenced. And I think you're spot on, Pastor, is that the left has made it a bad thing to say I'm a Christian, and it is wild to me because you know. And I'll tell you a little story. When I first started becoming very vocal, when I started my podcast, I had people that I knew reach out to me, and they said, I never knew you were a evangelical white supremacist type person. And I'm like, whoa,
Wow.
whoa. First off, I'm Hispanic, man.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Well, the other day, let me just say this. The other day I finished doing a podcast with a friend of mine. We went to go have lunch. When I came out, someone had painted with a paint marker on my car racist, and because I'm very vocal in this state, right?
Hmm.
And I have a little bit of a following. And you know the thing is I don't care.
Yeah.
That you know
But it's
that
not
doesn't
okay, right? Like that
it's not
person.
okay, but it's not going to stop me either.
Yeah.
It's not going to stop me. And you know, I have my core values and people can do they can say and do what they want, but as Christians, we have to tell the truth.
Yeah. And I'm sorry to hear that because that is unfortunate that that's where our world has gotten. Because if that person severely disagreed with you, they should have caught you and said, at least I'd love to sit down with you and ask you why you
Yeah.
believe this. You know, let's just have a conversation. Let's have dialogue. Let's talk about it. If we disagree, I love sitting down with people that disagree with me because let's have a conversation. I'll tell you my perspective and why I feel that way, and tell me yours. And who knows, maybe we find out that hey, actually we have something in common.
Yeah, but I think that's the problem is the left doesn't want to have those conversations, right? They want to lash out, they want to hate and they're stuck in that cycle and you know, I don't know what's going to wake them up, but you know, Christians like Pastor Steve, like me, like there's other members of this church. We just got to keep standing up, and we got to keep standing in the pocket and taking it, and just speaking the truth. And you know, even if we change one mind, we changed one mind.
Yeah,
But I ain't going nowhere.
yeah,
So
love it.
Well, I appreciate that, but you know, guys, really, it's just we are who we are. We don't have to hide it, unashamedly, unabashedly. I'm a
mhm,
believer in the Lord Jesus Christ, and that means I believe His word over everything else, over the church,
Mhm.
over anybody's opinion. We believe the Bible, and when God says in His word, whatever He says, we act on and we fight for, and we God gave us this Constitution to fight for, and Christians are giving it up to the world, to the worldly culture, to these reprobates that's what the Bible calls them, that believes that everything's okay. And they're doing it because they bought into this philosophy or indoctrination, whatever you want to call it. Well, that's not my thing to do politics. If God gave us the Constitution, which I believe He did,
Hmm.
Then he gave us the right to vote. And for people of faith to say, well, I'm just not my thing, I'm not going to vote, what they're saying is, God, I don't care what you do or say, I'm not going to do what you want me to do. We're supposed to stand up for and vote in the right leaders. That's what God gave us in America with the Constitution, our founding fathers.
Mhm.
And Christians, because they're in these churches where they think, well, my pastor should stand up instead of walking away from that pastor and hurting him where it hurts in his pocketbook and numbers, then he's never going to change. It's never going to change from the bottom up.
Yeah.
You're not going to change things about what you do is you leave and find a place that agrees with you and that will stand for biblical truth. And then what that does, it gives more and more influence to those people so they can have a bigger impact. The other guys, they go by the wayside because they say, well, I believe this. Well, when they lose 20 people or 50 people or 1,000 people, then they start questioning what they believe. But we don't believe that. Well, I like him. Well, I don't care who we like. If they're
Hmm.
not with us, they're against us.
Yes, sir.
And there's a lot of preachers in our town, in our city, in this state that have attacked me, attacked my brother, come against us, said all kinds of vile things of popular churches. And it's like, why are you still there? Why would you support that? When
Yeah.
all we're doing is standing up for what? For righteousness' sake. We're standing up for right and righteousness and God's ways. And that's all we can do. And it's unfortunate that they painted your car. But here's what I know. Elias, is that you're making a difference. And if you're being persecuted for the Lord's sake, he says,
Amen.
count it all joy. And
Amen.
so thank you for standing up. Thank you for fighting. Thank you for never quitting. I appreciate it.
Amen to that. And on that note, there's something our team here, we all have on our desks. Esther, perhaps you were born for a time such as this, and I
Yeah.
and I
Amen.
believe that's what we're all here for. This is the time, and we are here for it. And this is the moment where we are being outspoken.
Yeah, well, we're going to change this state one way or another. If it's one seat at a time, it's one seat at a time. And I think that's how New Mexico is going to be taken back is one seat at a time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Well, I appreciate you guys and for what your
So do I.
stands
Thank you.
very much. I respect you. I just think it's awesome. And I'll fight with you. But thank you for having us on your show.
Thanks,
thank
Absolutely.
guys.
Thank you
thank
all.
you. All right, guys.
All right. Well, there's some breaking news. AP just called the lieutenant governor
I
race
saw that.
for Senator David Gallegos, who will be on the general ballot. Right now, governor race, Greg Hull is still in the lead. Doug Turner's still about 5,000 votes down. There are some still pockets out there that he could potentially tap into. It may be a tough path.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty hard road for him to make up that much ground. Um, Greg Hall, if you take Bernalillo County, you take Sandoval County, you do really well in these two counties, you're on the road to success, and it's looking more and more like Greg Hall might be on that road. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Just looking right now, Maggie Toulouse Oliver won on the Democratic side
yeah,
for
she
lieutenant
wrapped
governor.
that up.
Current Secretary of State opposed to voter ID, has just made it very tough.
Let me just say this, guys. Maggie Oliver basically just fell forward into a better position. And I have no idea how, because she was probably one of the worst Secretary of States we've ever seen. But we continue to see this in New Mexico. We see Democrats that fail at their positions and then win higher office. And a lot of it has to do with voters that are just completely uneducated. They vote blue no matter who. Maggie Oliver is quite literally one of the worst Secretary of States we've ever seen in the state of New Mexico. And now she's going to be on the ballot for lieutenant governor.
I will tell you, Elias, she might get one upped on that Secretary of State role. Right now, Amanda Lopez Askin, former Donna Ana County Clerk, has a pretty commanding lead against Catherine Clark, who was the Santa Fe County Clerk. Amanda Askin was actually part of a big controversy in Donna Ana where there was a
Yeah.
drop of ballots that came out of nowhere at the last second and quickly overturned a race overnight. Like this candidate went to bed thinking they had won. Midnight comes around, some drop happened, and she loses to the incumbent.
How many times have we seen that in New Mexico?
Yeah,
More than once,
I'll
right?
tell you, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist. I worked for the Secretary of State's office. I worked under Secretary Diana Durant. I worked under Maggie Toulouse Oliver.
Yeah.
before I went to go work for former Lieutenant Governor John Sanchez. And voter fraud does exist. I mean, it's
Yes.
now, is it at the magnitude to shift races? I don't know. We need some research there. But I will tell you, I saw dirty voter rolls. I saw
Yeah.
voter rolls where there was 10, 12 people still on a voter roll at the same address. That's eyebrow raising. Why
Yeah.
aren't we cleaning those up? I just I've seen it. And so I don't like to believe that, these mass voter fraud ballot drops are happening, but it's becoming more and more likely that it could be possible.
Yeah, and there's ballot harvesting, right? We
Yeah.
we know that there's ballot harvesting in the state of New Mexico. So, you
And
know,
again, voter ID should be common sense. It shouldn't be a political thing. It's just like a driver's license. It's a privilege and
yeah.
it can be abused. And so why wouldn't we want to make sure that anyone who is eligible to vote has their vote protected? And yeah, why isn't it protected with a voter ID? I mean,
And
it's not controversial. It's not saying, hey, we're suppressing votes if you're minorities. I'm not suppressed. I'm Hispanic. I don't feel suppressed. I would actually feel better if I said, hey, you know what? At least I know someone can go in with my information and say, yeah, I'm Albanese Baldonado and I live at this address and here it is. And now they took my ballot because it could happen.
Deb Holland just did an interview recently where she said that there's a program here in the state where they help veterans get IDs and open bank accounts. And I find it very strange that we're saying that we can help veterans get IDs and help them get bank accounts, but we can't help, you know, a citizen get an ID.
Yeah.
And we can't just mandate a voter ID. When you register, you get shipped a voter ID, just an ID that's for voting,
Yeah.
right? Why can't we do that? I mean, this is a 90-10 issue. Democrats agree with it, Republicans agree with
And
it.
and the folks that argue it, the opposition will tell you, well, it suppresses minorities.
Mhm.
How?
Yeah. I think it's an insult. I think it's an insult to minorities,
Yeah.
right? You're telling
Are
them that
you
they
telling
can
me that I'm too dumb that I
that
can't figure out how to get my voter ID, or
yeah,
if I do have a name change, like I don't know how to go do that at the DMV
yeah,
and
you're telling women that they, if they get married, they can't
change
manage
their name?
yeah, they
Yeah.
can't manage to go change their name on an ID. Not any of the women I know. Any of the women I know, you tell them they can't do something, they're gonna do it just to prove you wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, just a couple of things. Writing candidates for the Republicans all made it across the finish line. So Larry Leadmarker for U.S. Senate will be on the ballot. Joshua James Lawrence for state auditor will be on the ballot. State treasurer James Ellison will also be on the ballot. So there will be some folks on there to challenge the current incumbents.
The New Mexico state auditor is a seat that I just think goes overlooked all the time. It's such an important role. I mean, can you imagine if we have a Republican in that role and we go forensically audit every single one of these counties? We start auditing all these programs and we start looking where all of our money actually is really going.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd find millions and millions of dollars
Yeah,
that have
and a
been.
lot of times it goes to overhead, man. It goes to very lucrative salaries for top administrators. That's what we tend to see. When I was working in public education, I worked on an initiative to lower the administrative spending in our public schools, so ensuring that you know our district administrators weren't overspending and making sure that that money actually went to the classrooms with teachers. I mean, it's common sense, but I agree. It looks like we got some
Yeah,
breaking news coming in.
yeah, we got some breaking news, guys. It looks like Gregory Hall will be on the ticket for New Mexico's governor. Looks like he won the Republican primary. He's the projected winner. So, Greg Hall,
Congratulations, Greg.
congratulations, Greg.
Congratulations, David Gallegos. You will have
Yeah.
a Greg Hull and David Gallegos ballot in 20 for the general this November.
Yeah, and I've been telling this to Republicans and conservatives. I know people have their heart set on certain candidates, right? People wanted Manny, they wanted Aubrey, they wanted Greg, they wanted Duke, they wanted who am I missing? Doug. And now that Greg won, we have to, as conservatives, we have to rally behind him and help him win this seat.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Well,
important.
I mean, the consequences are too severe if we don't.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we have to talk about this. And on that note, I want to talk real quick. Republicans, you got to get out and vote in the general, because right now what I'm seeing, I'm looking at the Commissioner of Public Lands. 141,000 total votes came in for the Democratic ticket.
Jeez.
Republicans only had 64,000. And if
Jeez.
that's any indication of the general election, we are in trouble. So Republicans, you got to get out and vote. Like Trump, I heard you earlier speaking that, Trump carried almost half the state.
Mhm.
Where are these folks? You guys got to get out and vote. I understand it's not a presidential election, but this election matters more than the presidential election.
Yeah. I mean, local elections statewide are going to have more of an effect on your daily life than the presidential election will. So, look, guys, make sure you guys do your research, look into these candidates, and show up, because now we're looking at Deb Haaland possibly being the next governor of the state of New Mexico, which would have dire consequences.
Yeah.
Dire consequences.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think maybe we should show these folks what the consequences are. We have a number of clips of Deb Haaland and some of her blunders, and maybe we just kind of need to remind some folks about that.
Yeah,
Let's see. Where do we start? Let's see.
let's just go from the top.
Let's go from the top. Let's
yeah.
go 005. Let's go. We uphold the state law.
There was a hearing because New Mexico passed a new law that bans ICE in counties contracting with ICE in detention facilities. There was a hearing today. The Trump administration is suing the state of New Mexico. Otero County, they still signed a contract with ICE. How would you uphold the state law?
Right. Well, I mean, we uphold the state law, right? I mean, the law was passed. It was passed by the legislature. It was signed by the governor. It's a law that New Mexico can pass and uphold. And so I suppose that we uphold it the way we uphold other laws.
Is that just kicking out ICE and saying, Otero County, you can't do this?
Well, I mean, it's my understanding that I think they extended the contract or something of that nature. And I'm not sure when the law actually kicks in. So, I'd have to look at all those.
It actually kicks in next week.
Okay.
With that, our time is out.
Thank you.
Secretary.
There it is. I mean, this is potentially your governor in 2027 who hasn't even looked into this issue and says, I'd have to get back to you on that. You're running for governor. And honestly, has she ever heard of the supremacy clause that federal
Apparently
law reigns supreme? I
Yeah.
mean, come on. I mean, this is basic civics. I taught history. I had ninth graders who knew this, that, hey, the federal law is the supreme law of the land.
Look, Deb Haaland, it took her 3 times to pass the bar, and then she blamed the test on being racist. So, I mean,
Well, and that's what they've done. That's the soft bigotry of low expectations. And
Yeah.
that's something that they use towards minorities, is that because you're Hispanic, because you're Native American, it's just too hard for you. And we
Yeah.
need to make it a little bit easier. And that is an insult to our culture and to our people. And we should be very frustrated.
yeah, yeah,
Well, it sounds like we have another guest. So
Yeah.
we're going to get ready for that. And should we go to a quick 1-minute break?
yeah. We're gonna take a quick break, guys, and we'll be right back. All right, New Mexico, welcome back to Unfiltered with Elias. We got Joshua James Lawrence, our next New Mexico state auditor. You got on the ballot, man.
We're there.
You're there. A lot of hard work.
It's yeah, it's flown by, but yeah,
Yeah.
lots of traveling across this big state.
New Mexico is a big state.
Yeah, it is.
Statewide see how have New Mexicans been taking you in? What have they been telling you on the ground?
You know, you hear some of everything, as you know. You
Yeah.
can't please them all. But you know, pretty much just like when I ran for sheriff, Bernalillo County Sheriff, if you get me on the mic talking and you care about reality and truth, um, I can win a room, no problem.
Yeah.
And that's definitely not coming from a place of ego. It just is what it is. You know, I don't write speeches.
Yeah.
I pray to God and ask him to speak through me and to give everybody the ears to hear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think most New Mexicans are kind of right. We see a lot of New Mexicans vote Democrat, but that's just because their whole family's been doing it and they've been doing it for the last 50 years. But most New Mexicans are right in the center on the issues. So when you tell them what's actually going on in this state, well, they're shocked and appalled, and they really aren't for this. It's just about how do we get them to vote Republican.
Yeah. You know, you can't deny our rankings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't deny the frustrations and the desperations that we all feel one direction or another. And you know, people hear truth. They feel it. You know, if
Yeah.
somebody's speaking from the spirit, you can feel it. You know, we're all hurting. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on.
Yeah.
We're being robbed.
That's
You
the
know,
truth. Homelessness, fentanyl. I mean, the fentanyl epidemic in this state is unreal. Driving over here, I saw 3 people just completely leaning over, and you got to think about it. Those 3 people, that's someone's son, that's someone's daughter, that's someone's father, cousin, and those are the issues that are hitting people. Plus the economy, right? The state of New Mexico just can't get out of its own way and get its economy going.
right? You know, well, people really have it in their mind that we're just a poor state. You know, and I mean, Duke's right? Poorly managed.
Yeah.
But we could very easily, and we have the second highest sovereign wealth fund in the country. We've got every resource known to man. We've got all the intelligence that we could possibly need. Um, you know, we lost a lot of mom and pop shops across this state
Mm-hmm.
through the lockdowns. Um, it's not hard. I mean, a lot of people I talk to, it's like I feel like their perspective is like it's impossible. I mean, I wear this all the time. With God, all things are possible. And in my mind, in my perception, my vision, it's not hard at all to
Yeah.
promote mom and pops, to raise the people up, to give the people dividends, to bring manufacturing, to wake up farms and ranches. What's so hard about it? We have it all.
Yeah. I don't think it's hard. I just think the people that we have in office now, they have an agenda, right? And they push that agenda and they do it very well. Not to mention the corruption that we see in this state, right? You know, we have a we have a class of politicians in Santa Fe that would rather fill their pockets than fill New Mexican stomachs. And that's a problem. And it's
Yeah.
a problem that we have to change. But unfortunately, Democrats just they message very well. They've got a very well-oiled machine that works, you know, and it pumps out candidates. Emerge pumps out candidates, and they do it very well, and they're very well funded. And the Republican Party in this state has to get its crap together.
You know, yeah, I've watched a lot of people go,
Uh-huh.
to Florida, Tennessee, Texas, wherever. But it doesn't matter where you go. We all have the same issues.
Mm-hmm.
Dressed a little different, you know, but you're not safe from it. There is nowhere to hide.
No.
You know, so either if you love this place and you want it to be your home, then you fight for it,
Yep.
because otherwise you're going to be fighting for somebody else's home.
Yep. And look, I've traveled this country. I've been everywhere you can think of. But every time I leave, I can't wait to get home, because Texas ain't home to me. Oklahoma ain't home. Colorado ain't home. Arizona ain't home. California ain't home. New Mexico is home to me. So, I made a decision a long time ago that I'll die in New Mexico. I want to leave a better state for my kids, but in order to do that, unfortunately, we got to get into politics, and this is how you change it.
You know, I don't call it leadership. I call it servitude.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to serve, but I will never call myself a politician.
No, you're a servant, and that's the problem right now. And I've said this before. We have we have politicians in Santa Fe. They don't think of themselves as servants. They think of themselves as celebrities.
Yeah.
They win that office, and they want their social medias to blow up, and they want to be famous, and they want to get rich, and they lose track of why they went up there in the first place. And the lobbyists and these industries start putting money into their campaigns and start comping dinners, and they forget who they are.
I preach it all the time that 99.9% of the people that get into office, they don't know the law. They don't know the Constitution. They don't know the origins of the job that they're running for. So when they get up there, do you want to look like an idiot and not know what to do? What do you do? Who teaches you? Who educates you how to do the job that you're currently in? The lawyers, the predecessors, the people that have already been up there not knowing what they're doing either.
Yeah.
But you get caught up in it. Fake
Yeah.
it till you make it.
Yeah, I mean, the New Mexico Trial Lawyers Association has a big part to play in that, right? They donate a lot of money. They broke our healthcare system, and you're right. Because in order to run for office in the state of New Mexico, you have to live here for a certain amount of time, but you don't need a college degree, you don't need a high school diploma. You just need to be 18 and breathing.
And that's how it should be constitutionally.
Absolutely.
You don't necessarily want your sheriff to be a forever cop.
Yeah.
Because they get indoctrinated into that system.
Yeah.
It's meant to be for any American that's willing to step up to the plate and do the job.
Yeah.
I don't have to have a CPA to be an auditor. And there's a lot of people that tell me I'm not qualified. Well, I'll tell you what, every person that's got that job before me, guess what they did have? They were qualified. They did have those CPA licenses and they were auditors. And does that change the fact that we have fraud, waste, and abuse going on heavily in this state?
No, I'm a firm believer. I would rather have someone with good moral conviction than someone with a law degree in those
Guts and
positions, right?
glory and
Yeah.
the will to want to serve.
Yep. Because we need someone up there that knows the difference between right and wrong, and that's the problem, right? People in Santa Fe right now don't seem to know the difference between right and wrong.
Are they competent or are they incompetent?
I would say incompetent on a lot of them. And
are they ignorant or are they aware?
Yeah.
You tell me that every candidate that's been in office over the last 20 years didn't know about Zorro Ranch and Epstein? Who utilized their platform to speak up to the people?
Yeah.
Tell me they don't know, they don't understand how the money is being stolen away, how our governor is now worth over 220 million. None of them knew that. Did any of them use their platform to teach any of us, left or right? It's never happened.
No. Yeah. Well, we're trying to change that. I keep telling people we're not going to see this massive red wave in the state of New Mexico, but there's key seats like yours, right? The New Mexico State Auditor, CD2, CD3, There's seats that we have a possibility of winning, and that's how we do it. We got to take one seat at a time, or two at a time, or three at a time. But, you know, to educate the populace in the state of New Mexico, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. People to break away from the way that they've been voting for the last 40 or 50 years. People don't just do that overnight. It's a process, you know. They have to learn about what's going on, and they have to feel the suffering too. You know,
Yeah.
some people just haven't felt it yet. They've been shielded by because they make a little bit more money than the median household income, or they have two incomes. So they've been shielded. But, you know, if Deb Haaland gets elected, I have a feeling that none of us are going to be able to be shielded. None of us will be shielded.
All over this country, I'm always trying to teach communities of people. I've spoken in many, many, many crowds of hundreds, thousands, whatever people. Um, there is remedy and recourse that exists inside of our Constitution, inside of our laws, and there's many different forms of law. There's equity law, corporate law, FCC law, you name it. There's all kinds of laws. We have to learn how to we have to learn what that remedy and recourse is, and we have to learn those processes. They don't teach them to us anymore. In fact, if you read the Constitution right now on the process of being elected, you will plainly read that none of these elected officials are technically in office right now, that their seats are vacant because they're not upholding the rules of our Constitution.
Yeah.
And just because legislature passes statutes do not amend your Constitution. So those rules are still there. So I've been preaching to every state official, every sheriff I can talk to in this state that's running, every candidate, um, the judges, you name it. When we take those offices, the moment we take our oath, we need to all go together in every county. Take that oath to the local bonding office and go get our bonds. It's called an elected official bond. Give or take 300, 400 bucks. And we put it on the record. Now, when it's on the record, we've officially, because you have to do that within 30 days of taking your oath. The last person to do it was the sheriff in Valencia County in 1987. And every county clerk in the state and the Secretary of State is supposed to have a book of every elected official's bond in the county or in the state. And anytime any elected officials in dereliction of duty, meaning they're not upholding their oath of office, we the people have the ability to go pull that bond and place a complaint on it. And after two complaints, those people can be removed from office. They don't teach any of us. They'd rather us forget, and we have. So let's start following the rules. Let's set the precedent, all of us elected officials. Let's go get the bond. Let's go put it on the record. We're giving the people the ability to remove us if we decide we want to screw up.
Well, and that's going to be a tough sell to Democrats.
It's all right, as long even if just us Republicans do it.
Yeah.
We're setting the precedent.
Yeah. Well, we've got to learn that when you get elected, you serve your terms and then you go live under the laws that you passed. Not you get elected and you stay there 30 years and you never have to deal with the repercussions of the laws that you pushed through. So,
Well, and once again, the Constitution states any law repugnant to the Constitution is null and void. It's our duty as Americans to not uphold that law. You can't pass a law against our Second Amendment, shall not be infringed. So when they do we have to uphold that? No. It says in our Constitution that our duty is not to.
yeah.
But if we all comply and we're all scared, then they can utilize it against us. But if we all stand together and we all don't comply, just like the churches that decided to stay open during the lockdowns versus the ones that were scared and they locked their doors.
Yeah. Well, all right, man. Well, thank you for coming on. We got a few more minutes, but you're on the ballot. Congratulations. Write-in candidate. That's not easy, man.
We set records apparently tonight.
Yeah.
3 write-in candidates.
Yeah. That's
It's
not
never
easy.
happened.
So, New Mexicans, we got a general still coming up. Make sure you guys vote. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with Abe and we're going to give you guys a short message and then we're going to sign out. All right, New Mexico, welcome back to Unfiltered with Elias. I got Abe Aldonado of the Chili Wire. We're going to give you guys a quick update, and then we're going to sign out. We want to give you guys the wins and losses of the night real quick. So why don't you give us that quick update, Abe?
Deb Holland landslide win tonight against Sam Brigman. Sam Brigman's belief that independents would show up and vote for him just fell flat. I don't know if independents even really showed up, maybe a handful.
No.
But I mean, that margin was significant, 72% to 28%.
Yeah, I think any candidate that was really depending on independents like Duke Rodriguez, Sam Bregman, well, they just figured out that that didn't work, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And on that note, Gregory Hull looks to be the winner in the GOP primary. So it looks like we will have Gregory Hull on the general ballot. And congratulations, and a big shout out to all three of them for just even putting themselves out
Yeah.
there to run for office. It's not an easy feat. It is a very tough decision to make. And it is tough being on the campaign trail. And so I think all of them were competitive and they all had great strengths. And I think, as we talked earlier, it's going to be important for people to back Hull now because.
Yeah, I mean, Republicans have to unify. They have to get behind Greg, right? I keep saying this, but I understand people had their favorites, right? People really wanted Doug, people really wanted Duke, people really wanted Greg, and there's always winners and losers.
Yeah.
So,
And I think we got to talk about voters actually voting, man, because there are 1.4 million eligible voters, and we only have about 235,000 that actually turned out to vote.
yeah.
Which is a bummer. Lieutenant governor's race was called for David Gallegos on the GOP side, and also for Maggie Toulouse Oliver on the Democrat side, who won by a landslide against Harold Pope, who's a current state senator. interesting about Harold Pope. I don't know if you ever saw the video I did. He did a commercial saying like, either you like me or you don't like me, but you still talk about me, wearing an Antifa pin. And I'm like, that is not good campaign material, man. Like
Yeah.
it was terrible. Um, Secretary of State's office, Ramona Goolsbee, will be the GOP candidate in the general. She will be going up against Amanda Askin, former Donna Ana County Clerk. Again, someone who has some questionable reputation in Donna Ana. Lots of shady things down in Donna Ana from what we've
Yep.
heard over the years.
We just saw a huge audit be released from Donna Ana, and that county is not in good standing right now.
Definitely not. Martha Garcia came back from being down quite a bit. It looks like she may take that race. The big one, though, Marion Matthews is on the cusp of losing to Abby Foster, which would now make that an open seat. Marion Matthews has been in that seat for a long time. With that loss, it is now an open seat to our friend who we just chatted with not too long ago, Janelle Garcia. And as you mentioned, it is going to be important for folks to go out there because
Yep.
Abby Foster will not take the votes that Marion Matthews did on paid family medical leave and on medical malpractice.
Yeah. And you know, I keep telling New Mexicans we have to be realistic about the state of New Mexico. We're still educating a lot of voters. So we're not going to see a massive red wave this year, but we have some very strategic seats that we can take, and that is one of them.
Absolutely. Joseph Sanchez in Espanola held his seat this primary election cycle. He's a moderate conservative Democrat, pro Second Amendment. Glad to see that he fought off the primary challenger who
Yeah.
was a little bit further left. Ambrose Castellano looks like he lost to the incumbent Anita Gonzalez. And that about wraps it up, man, from some of the races we were watching. I think we should note that right now the former party chair, Amy Barella, may lose her county commission seat right now. She was down last we saw. So, and we're going to have some interesting storylines tomorrow morning.
Yeah. As far as so she appealed the decision, right, from the judge.
That's correct.
So Amy Barella was supposed to vacate her seat as RPNM chair from the lawsuit from Duke Rodriguez. She's now appealing that decision. But either way, she's only got a few months left in that seat. So we will see some new leadership in the Republican Party coming soon, right?
Absolutely. And just a notable mention, we didn't get to have our friend Nadidia Maka Okaparecki on tonight. She was pretty busy. Her race is important against Melanie Stansberry. And so I hope folks show up. And I mean, Melanie Stansberry is another one. You just have to look at her record and some of the stuff that she's said and done in Congress. I mean, for Christ's sake, she reported a poll that equaled 110%.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just
Yeah.
come on. So, Dee Dee, we're rooting for you. Looks like she'll have a tough general race. So, again,
Also,
turnout, man. We got to
Yeah.
get people to turn out.
Also, House District 60, Zach and I was just here, right? It looks
Yep.
like he lost his race, and it looks like Josh Hernandez won his race.
Yep,
So
and he's the current incumbent.
he's the
so-
current incumbent. So it looks like Josh Hernandez is going to keep his seat.
Yeah, Greg Cunningham. I think this is the race to watch for conservatives, that it can flip. Greg
Yep.
Cunningham with the right support. I know he was in here earlier and he said, "Hey, Trump won that district, hands down."
Mhm.
So those same voters got to show up and vote for him the way they did in the last presidential election.
Yep.
But that, I think, is the race to watch, where you can see New Mexico get some Republican leadership. And I love the point that he made that, hey, half of New Mexico voted conservative. They voted for Donald Trump. Yet we have no representation. Arnold Schwarzenegger talked about this on the news. And I never
Yeah.
thought I'd hear him say New Mexico, but he said,
Yeah.
look at New Mexico. They have no conservative representation.
45%.
45%, almost 50% of their
Yep.
state voted that way. And so that is something to watch. Martin Zamora will be going up against Teresa Leger Fernandez.
That's
Another
also a
important
seat.
race.
That's
That
also a
is.
seat that may be able, you know, he may be able to flip that seat. We'll see.
Absolutely. And after the redistricting in 2020, I mean, I know a lot of people thought that that seat may have been unfair, and I'm like, actually, there's a golden opportunity there
Hmm.
with the right candidate, and I think he has shown that he's had very great fundraising out at the gate. So hopefully that persists going into the general election. And so, Martin, we wish you the best of luck. And for folks who haven't gotten to know Martin, I encourage you go
Yeah,
talk to him, reach out, follow
he's a
him.
great guy, godly
Absolutely,
Christian man, just a good man altogether. He just wants to do the right thing for
Amen.
New Mexicans, and those are the kind of people we want in office.
Absolutely. Well, Elias, I just want to say, pleasure being here by your side doing this. I think New
Absolutely.
Mexicans deserve this. They deserve folks like us coming to talk to them because I'm sorry, you don't get this from legacy media. You're not going to get this from KOB. You're not going to get it from KOAT. You're not going to get it from KRQE. And that's just the unfortunate reality. And here's where we can have real dialogue and real conversations. And as you see, we bring the candidates to you all to hear directly
Yeah.
from them.
Yeah. We're gonna be honest with you guys. There's no fluff here. We're gonna tell you what our opinions are, and we're gonna give you the news right up to date. So thank you for joining us. We're gonna do this again
For the general
for the
election
general
come
election. So
November.
make sure you guys tune in with us then, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you for watching Unfiltered with Elias and the Chili Wire with Abe Maldonado.
Thank you guys very much.
We'll see you on the next one.
See ya.